What would you do if the woman who shattered your heart returned after 10 years, not to apologize, but to collect a debt? Tonight, Noah Bennett will open his door to the impossible. Celeste Harper, the billionaire who vanished without a trace, now standing in the snow with an ultimatum that will unravel everything he thought he knew about their past. Before this night ends, he'll discover that their love didn't die. It was murdered. And the man responsible is waiting to confess before his final breath. Stay with me until the very end of this story, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this journey travels. The kitchen light flickered as Noah Bennett leaned over the table, his daughter's math homework spread between them like a battlefield of numbers and eraser shavings. Outside, snow fell in thick, silent curtains, muffling the world beyond their small apartment. It was the kind of winter night that made you grateful for warmth, for routine, for the simple rhythm of a child's questions and a father's patient answers. "Dad, I still don't get it," Emma said, her pencil hovering over the fraction problem. At 8 years old, she had her mother's dark eyes, the mother who'd left them 3 years ago without looking back. Noah pushed his reading glasses up the bridge of his nose. "Look at it this way, sweetheart. If you have one pizza and you cut it into 8 slices," the knock at the door stopped him mid-sentence. It wasn't the casual tap of a neighbor or the quick rap of a delivery driver. It was measured, deliberate, the kind of knock that carried weight. Noah glanced at the clock on the microwave, 9:47 p.m. Too late for visitors, too cold for solicitors. "Stay here," he told Emma, rising from his chair. The second knock came as he crossed the living room, more insistent this time. Through the frosted glass panel beside the door, he could make out a dark silhouette, tall and still, haloed by the porch light's yellow glow. Noah turned the deadbolt and pulled the door open. The woman standing on his doorstep didn't belong in this neighborhood. She didn't belong in this universe. Her charcoal coat was tailored to perfection, cinched at the waist, expensive enough to pay his rent for 6 months. Her dark hair was pulled back in a way that emphasized the sharp elegance of her features. High cheekbones, full lips pressed into a line that suggested both determination and something else. Anxiety, maybe. Or regret. But it was her eyes that hit him like a fist to the chest. Those pale green eyes he'd memorized a lifetime ago. The ones that had haunted his dreams for years after she disappeared. Celeste. Her name fell from his lips like a prayer and a curse all at once. She didn't smile, didn't soften. Just stood there in the falling snow, a ghost made flesh, watching him with an intensity that made his heart hammer against his ribs. "Hello, Noah." Her voice. He'd forgotten how it could wrap around his name, turning 2 syllables into something intimate and dangerous. "What?" He couldn't finish the sentence. His brain had short-circuited, unable to process the impossibility of her presence. 10 years. It had been 10 years since she'd walked out of his life without explanation, without warning, without mercy. "May I come in?" she asked. "It's freezing out here." Noah stood frozen himself, his hand still gripping the edge of the door. Part of him wanted to slam it shut, to lock her out the way she'd locked him out of her life. But another part, the part that had never quite healed, couldn't move. "Dad? Who is it?" Emma's voice drifted from the kitchen. Celeste's gaze shifted past him, and something flickered across her face. Surprise? Pain? It was gone before he could name it. "Just a minute, Em," Noah called over his shoulder. He stepped out onto the porch, pulling the door mostly closed behind him. "What are you doing here, Celeste?" The cold bit through his sweater immediately, but he barely felt it. All his senses were focused on the woman standing 3 feet away, so close and yet impossibly distant. "I need to talk to you," she said. "It's important." Important. The word tasted bitter. "You disappear for a decade without a word, and now something's important?" Her jaw tightened. "I know you have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you," Noah interrupted, and the truth of it surprised him. "I don't feel anything for you anymore, Celeste. You made sure of that." It was a lie, and they both knew it. The tremor in his voice gave him away. She looked down, and for the first time since arriving, her composure cracked. "I didn't come here to ask for forgiveness. I came because you're owed something. An explanation. The truth." "The truth?" Noah laughed, a harsh sound that died quickly in the cold air. "The truth is you left. You chose whatever was more important than us, and you left. That's all the truth I need." That's not what happened. Her eyes met his again, and this time he saw it clearly. The pain, raw and real. "Noah, everything you think you know about why I left is a lie." The words hung between them like the snowflakes suspended in the porch light's glow. "I don't have time for this," Noah said, even as his resolve wavered. "I have a daughter to take care of. My father is dying." The statement landed like a physical blow. Celeste's father, Richard Harper. The legendary business tycoon who'd built an empire from nothing, who'd once shaken Noah's hand at a family dinner and looked at him like he was something stuck to the bottom of his shoe. "I'm sorry," Noah said automatically, though he wasn't sure he meant it. "He wants to see you." "Before—" She swallowed hard. "He doesn't have much time. Why would he want to see me?" Celeste's hands, he noticed, were trembling. She clasped them together, but the tremor remained. "Because he needs to confess, to both of us, about what he did." "What he did?" 10 years ago, Noah. What really happened between us. Why I disappeared." She stepped closer, and he caught the faint scent of her perfume, something expensive and foreign. Nothing like the vanilla body spray she used to wear. "I didn't leave you. I thought you left me." The world tilted. "That's impossible," Noah said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "You stopped answering my calls. You changed your number. When I came to your apartment, you were gone. And when you stopped writing, when your letters stopped coming, when you didn't show up for our anniversary, I thought you'd found someone else." Her voice cracked. "I thought you'd decided I wasn't worth the trouble." "I never stopped writing. I wrote you every week for 6 months. I never received a single letter." They stared at each other, the snow falling harder now, accumulating on Celeste's dark hair like stars in a night sky. "That's not possible," Noah repeated, but even as he said it, something was shifting inside him. Memories he'd buried were clawing their way to the surface, the confusion he'd felt when Celeste went silent, the desperation of his unanswered calls. The way her roommate had looked at him with pity when he'd shown up at her door, telling him Celeste had moved out weeks ago and left no forwarding address. "My father has cancer," Celeste continued, her words coming faster now, as if she needed to get them out before she lost her nerve. "Stage 4. He has weeks, maybe days. And 3 days ago, when he thought I wasn't listening, I heard him on the phone with his lawyer. He was talking about you, about the things he did to keep us apart." Noah's hands had gone numb, but it wasn't from the cold. "What things?" "Come with me," Celeste said. "Let him tell you himself. You deserve to hear it from the man who destroyed us." "I can't just leave." "I'm not asking you to leave tonight. Tomorrow. I'll send a car, please, Noah." She reached out, her fingers hovering near his arm but not quite touching. "I know I have no right to ask you for anything, but this isn't about me. It's about what was stolen from both of us. Don't you want to know why?" "Dad?" Emma's voice came again, closer this time. The door opened wider and his daughter peered out, her eyes going wide at the sight of the elegant stranger on their porch. Celeste's expression softened instantly. "Hi there." Emma looked from Celeste to Noah and back again. "Are you okay, Dad? You're shivering." He was. His whole body was shaking, and he couldn't tell if it was from the cold or from the earthquake happening inside his chest. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Go back inside. I'll be there in a minute." Emma hesitated, then nodded and retreated into the warmth of the apartment, though Noah could feel her watching through the window. "Your daughter is beautiful," Celeste said quietly. "Don't." Noah's voice was sharp. "Don't talk about her. You don't get to be part of that part of my life." Celeste flinched, but nodded. "You're right. I'm sorry." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a business card, holding it out to him. "This is my personal number. The car will be at your building at 10 a.m. tomorrow, if you decide to come." Noah took the card without looking at it. "And if I don't? Then my father dies with his secrets, and you spend the rest of your life wondering if what I said tonight was true." She turned to leave, then paused at the top of the porch steps. "For what it's worth, Noah, I never stopped loving you. Not for a single day in 10 years. I just thought you'd stopped loving me." She descended the steps before he could respond, her heels clicking against the snow-dusted concrete. A black car materialized from the darkness. He hadn't even noticed it parked at the curb, and a driver emerged to open the rear door for her. Noah stood on the porch long after the car's taillights had disappeared into the snowy night, Celeste's business card growing damp in his hand. Inside, Emma was waiting on the couch, her homework forgotten. Who was that lady? Noah sat down beside her, suddenly exhausted. Someone I used to know. A long time ago. She seemed sad. Yeah, sweetheart. I think she is. Are you sad too? Noah pulled his daughter close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. I don't know what I am. Later, after Emma was in bed, Noah sat at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee he didn't drink. Celeste's business card lay in front of him, the gold lettering catching the light. Celeste Harper, CEO, Harper Industries. He picked up his phone, opened the drawer where he kept old photographs, the ones he'd never quite been able to throw away. His hand trembled as he sorted through them until he found the one he was looking for. Celeste at 20, sitting on the edge of a fountain in the park, laughing at something he'd said. The sun was in her hair, and she wore the cheap bracelet he'd given her for her birthday, the one he'd saved for weeks to afford. She'd looked at him like he was the only person in the world that mattered. He'd loved her so completely it had terrified him. And then she was gone. Noah set the photo down and stared at the business card again. His rational mind said to ignore it, to let sleeping dogs lie, to protect himself and Emma from whatever chaos Celeste brought with her. But that small voice inside him, the one that had never quite healed, whispered something else. What if she's telling the truth? The night stretched on, sleepless and infinite. Noah lay in bed watching the ceiling, Celeste's words playing on a loop in his mind. I never received a single letter. How was that possible? He'd mailed them himself, watched them disappear into the blue mailbox on the corner. Week after week, pouring his heart onto paper, telling her about his days, about how much he missed her, about the future he imagined for them. And she never got any of them. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. 2:34 a.m. A text from an unknown number. I couldn't sleep either. I keep thinking about the version of you I lost 10 years ago, wondering if any part of him still exists in the man you've become. See, Noah stared at the message for a long time before typing his response. I could ask you the same thing. The reply came almost immediately. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, if you come. Why should I believe anything you say? Because you know me, Noah. Or you did, and the girl who loved you couldn't lie to save her life. Some things don't change. He wanted to argue, to tell her that everything had changed, that they were strangers now. But his fingers typed different words. What did your father do? The 3 dots indicating she was typing appeared and disappeared several times before her response finally came through. He made us both believe we weren't wanted. He intercepted every attempt we made to reach each other. He systematically dismantled our relationship from the shadows, and we never knew. I only found out by accident. A phone call I wasn't supposed to hear, and when I confronted him, he admitted everything. Noah's hands tightened around his phone. Why? He thought he was protecting me, protecting my future. He thought you weren't enough for his daughter. He was wrong, Noah. About everything. And now he's dying and he wants to confess before he goes. He says he needs us both to hear it. Noah typed and deleted several responses before settling on, I'll think about it. That's all I'm asking. Good night, Noah. Good night. He set the phone down but didn't close his eyes. Instead, he got up and walked to Emma's room, standing in the doorway and watching her sleep. Her nightlight cast soft shadows across her peaceful face. She was his world now, his reason for getting up every morning, his purpose. What would it do to her if he reopened this old wound? If he went down this rabbit hole and came back changed? But what would it do to him if he didn't? Morning came gray and cold. Emma chattered through breakfast about a field trip coming up, about her friend Sophia's new puppy, about the snow that had piled up overnight. Noah made her French toast and listened with half his attention, the other half fixed on the clock. 9:47 a.m. 13 minutes until the car was supposed to arrive. Dad, you're burning my toast, Emma said. Noah jerked back to the present, flipping the bread just in time. Sorry, sweetheart. Distracted this morning. Is it because of the sad lady? Sometimes his daughter's perceptiveness unnerved him. Kind of, yeah. Are you going to see her again? Noah slid the French toast onto her plate, added syrup and strawberries the way she liked. Maybe. I'm not sure yet. I think you should. He looked at her, surprised. Why? Emma shrugged, cutting her toast into neat squares. She came all the way here in the snow, and she looked at you like Sophia looks at her puppy, like you're really important. Noah's throat tightened. Eat your breakfast, kiddo. At 9:55, he called his neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who'd agreed to watch Emma after school. Then he texted his boss, claiming a family emergency. It wasn't entirely a lie. At 9:58, he stood by the window, watching the street. At 10 exactly, a black Mercedes pulled up to the curb. Noah's heart hammered as he grabbed his coat. This was insane. He was about to climb into a stranger's car to confront a dying man about events from a decade ago, all because a woman who'd broken his heart had shown up on his doorstep spinning impossible stories. But they weren't impossible, were they? That was the problem. Every word Celeste had said rang with a terrible kind of truth. I love you, Em, he said, kissing his daughter's forehead. Be good for Mrs. Chen. I'm always good, Emma replied with perfect 8-year-old logic. The driver was professional and silent, holding the door open without comment. Inside, the car smelled like leather and money. Noah had never been in anything this expensive in his life. They drove for 45 minutes, leaving the city behind, winding through increasingly rural roads until they turned onto a private drive marked only by a discreet sign, Harper Estate. Noah's stomach knotted. He'd never been here. In all the time he and Celeste were together, she'd kept her family and their relationship in separate boxes. He'd met her father exactly 3 times, always in neutral territory. Restaurants, her apartment, once at a company event where Richard Harper had made it clear Noah was tolerated but not welcomed. The house, mansion really, appeared around a bend like something from a different century. Stone and glass and impossible proportions, surrounded by manicured grounds now blanketed in snow. It looked like the kind of place where happiness went to die. Celeste was waiting at the entrance. She'd changed since last night, trading her dramatic coat for a simple black dress and cardigan, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked more like the girl he remembered and nothing like her at the same time. You came, she said, and he heard genuine relief in her voice. I'm here. That doesn't mean I believe you. I know. She gestured toward the massive oak door. He's waiting for us in his study. Noah, before we go in, I need you to know I'm angry too. I'm furious at what he did, but he's still my father, and he's dying. I can't, her voice caught. I can't let him go without at least trying to understand. Noah nodded stiffly. Let's get this over with. The interior of the house was exactly what he expected. All old money and quiet power. Their footsteps echoed on marble floors as Celeste led him through hallways lined with family portraits. He caught glimpses of a younger Celeste in some of them, a little girl with the same serious eyes, and had to look away. The study was at the back of the house, overlooking snow-covered gardens. Richard Harper sat in a leather chair by the fireplace, a blanket across his lap despite the room's warmth. The man Noah remembered had been robust, commanding, the kind of presence that dominated any space he occupied. The man before him now was a ghost of that. Cancer had hollowed him out, leaving skin stretched over bone, eyes that had seen too much and would soon see nothing at all. But those eyes were still sharp when they fixed on Noah. Mr. Bennett, Richard said, his voice a rasp of its former authority. Thank you for coming. Noah didn't sit in the chair Celeste offered. I'm here because your daughter asked me to come. Not because I owe you anything. A faint smile crossed Richard's face. Still direct. I remember that about you. It's one of the things I found most troubling. Dad, Celeste warned, taking the chair beside her father. No, it's fine, Noah said. Let him talk. That's why I'm here, isn't it? To hear the great Richard Harper's deathbed confession? Richard's fingers twitched on the armrest. You have every right to your anger, but please sit. What I have to tell you requires time, and I don't have much of it left. Noah remained standing for another moment, then slowly lowered himself into the opposite chair. Celeste sat between them, her hands clasped so tightly in her lap that her knuckles had gone white. 10 years ago, Richard began, my daughter fell in love with you. You were, by all objective measures, unsuitable. No family name, no fortune, no connections, just a kind boy who made her laugh and looked at her like she hung the moon. Dad, Celeste started, but Richard raised a hand. Let me finish. I need to say this while I still can. He took a labored breath. I wanted more for Celeste. I'd spent my life building an empire, creating opportunities, opening doors, and she wanted to throw it all away for love. The word fell from his lips like an accusation. So I made a choice, Richard continued. I decided that if she couldn't see clearly, I would see for her. I would remove the obstacle that was blinding her to her true potential. Noah's jaw clenched. You mean me? Yes. You. Richard met his gaze without flinching. I hired a private investigator to monitor your communications. Every letter you mailed to Celeste, I intercepted. I had them delivered to a P.O. box instead. I read every word you wrote, Mr. Bennett. Your plans for the future, your promises, your devotion, all of it. The room spun. Noah gripped the arms of his chair, his knuckles white. And the calls. Celeste's voice was barely a whisper. My phone? I had your service provider reroute his calls to a disconnected number. He thought he was calling you. You thought he simply stopped trying. Richard's voice cracked. I told you he'd met someone else. Showed you fabricated evidence, photos of him with another woman, staged conversations. I convinced you he'd moved on. That's not possible, Noah said, even though he knew it was. He'd seen enough movies, read enough stories. Rich men like Richard Harper could make anything happen. The woman in my apartment that night, an actress. I paid her to be there when Celeste came looking for you, to answer the door, to play the part of your new girlfriend. It cost me $5,000 and destroyed my daughter's heart. Richard closed his eyes. One of my better investments, I thought at the time. Celeste made a sound like she'd been struck. Noah looked at her and saw tears streaming down her face, though she made no move to wipe them away. You son of a... Noah started to rise, fury blazing through him. Let him finish, Celeste said, her voice hollow. We need to hear all of it. Noah forced himself back into the chair, every muscle in his body screaming to leave, to put his fist through something, to run from this revelation that was rewriting his entire history. I thought it would be temporary, Richard said. A clean break. She'd be sad for a while, then move on to someone more appropriate. Someone who could match her ambition, her intelligence, her station in life. He laughed, a bitter sound that turned into a cough. Instead, I watched my daughter harden. She threw herself into the business with a ferocity that frightened me. Built her own company from nothing, made her first million before she was 25. Became everything I'd ever wanted her to be. And I never loved anyone again, Celeste said quietly. Because I learned that love was a lie. That the one person I'd trusted completely had betrayed me without a second thought. Noah turned to her. I thought the same thing about you. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something shifted. 10 years of pain, of misunderstanding, of separate lives built on a foundation of lies. All of it crystallized into this single point of shared devastation. I'm dying, Richard said, pulling their attention back to him. And I want many things. Forgiveness, perhaps. Understanding. But I don't deserve either. He looked at Noah. I'm telling you this not because I expect absolution, but because you both deserve the truth. You deserved it 10 years ago. I stole that from you along with everything else. Why now? Noah demanded. Why tell us this now, when it's too late to matter? Because I heard Celeste on the phone last month, Richard said. She was talking to her friend about dating again, about how she couldn't trust people, couldn't open her heart. And I realized what I'd done. I didn't just separate two young lovers. I broke something fundamental inside my daughter. I taught her that love was conditional, that betrayal was inevitable, that protecting yourself mattered more than taking risks. You did, Celeste said, her voice hard as diamonds. You did all of that, and I need you to know before I die that it was all a lie. Love is not what I showed you. Love is not manipulation and control. Love is... He looked at Noah. Love is what this young man felt when he wrote you 73 letters over 6 months, each one more desperate than the last. Love is what you felt when you came to his apartment in the middle of the night, prepared to forgive him, even though you thought he'd cheated on you because you missed him more than you hated what he'd supposedly done. You read my journal, Celeste breathed. I read everything. I know everything about that relationship except how to undo the damage I caused. Richard's hands trembled as he reached for a box on the table beside him. These are yours, all 73 letters. And Celeste, your journal is in there too, the one you thought you lost when you moved out of your apartment. Celeste took the box with shaking hands. You took it. I did. Read them, both of you. See what you were to each other before I destroyed it. And then, Richard's voice faded to almost nothing. Then do what I never allowed you to do. Make your own choice. The silence that followed was absolute. Noah stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need air. He walked out before either of them could respond, through the hallways with their watching portraits, past the marble and the money and the magnificent trappings of a life he'd never wanted, out into the cold, clean bite of the winter afternoon. He made it to the garden before his knees gave out. He sank onto a stone bench, his head in his hands, his breath coming in ragged gasps that weren't quite sobs but weren't far off either. 10 years. 10 years of his life built on a lie. 10 years of believing he wasn't enough, that his love hadn't mattered, that Celeste had found him wanting and walked away without looking back. All of it false. All of it orchestrated by a dying man who'd decided their futures for them. Noah. He looked up to find Celeste standing a few feet away, the box clutched to her chest. Her face was wet with tears, her composure completely shattered. I'm so sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. It wasn't your fault. I should have fought harder. I should have demanded answers, should have found you, We were kids, Noah interrupted. We were 22 years old and someone with infinite resources set out to destroy us. We never had a chance. Celeste sank onto the bench beside him, carefully leaving space between them. I have all your letters. I opened one in the car before coming out here. Do you want to know what it said? Noah wasn't sure he could handle it, but he nodded anyway. Dear Celeste, she read from memory, her voice breaking. It's been 3 weeks since I last heard from you, and I'm starting to think I've done something wrong, though I can't imagine what. If I hurt you somehow, please tell me. Let me fix it. Let me try. Because every day without you feels like trying to breathe underwater. I miss you so much, it's like missing a limb. Please write back, please. All my love, Noah. A sound escaped him that he couldn't name. There are 72 more like that, Celeste whispered, and I never got any of them. While I was reading fabricated evidence of your betrayal, you were begging me to talk to you. We were in our own separate hells, and neither of us knew the truth. Noah turned to look at her fully. The sophisticated CEO had vanished, leaving only the girl he'd loved, older and scarred, but unmistakably her. What do we do now? He asked. I don't know. Celeste set the box down between them. My father will be dead within weeks, maybe days, and then we'll be left with this truth and no idea what to do with it. Do you want revenge? Is that why you brought me here? No. She shook her head firmly. I wanted you to know. I wanted you to understand that I never stopped loving you, that I never wanted to leave, that every cold, hard thing I became over the past 10 years was built on the foundation of losing you. I have a daughter, Noah said abruptly. Emma. She's 8. Her mother left when she was 5, and I've spent the last 3 years learning how to be enough for her. Learning how to build a life that's stable and safe and won't fall apart if someone decides to walk away. I know, I saw her picture in your wallet when you pulled it out to check the time last night. Celeste smiled sadly. She's beautiful. She has your eyes. I can't... Noah struggled for words. I can't do this again, Celeste. I can't let you back into my life and risk everything I've built. Emma deserves better than a father who's too broken to function. I'm not asking you to let me back in. I'm not asking for anything except... She trailed off, staring at the snow-covered garden. Except maybe understanding. And closure. The chance to mourn what we lost now that we know the truth. They sat in silence, the cold seeping through their clothes, the weight of 10 lost years pressing down on them both. Finally, Noah stood. I should go. I need to pick up Emma from school. Of course. Celeste rose as well, wrapping her arms around herself. Thank you for coming, for hearing him out, even though you didn't have to. Noah started to walk away, then stopped. Those letters. Can I have them? They're yours. Take the whole box. He picked it up, feeling the weight of 73 letters he'd poured his heart into. Words that had vanished into the void of Richard Harper's machinations. Celeste. Yes? I'm not sorry I loved you. Even knowing how it ended, even with everything that happened, I'm not sorry it happened. Her breath caught. Neither am I. Noah nodded once, then walked back toward the house, toward the car that would take him back to his real life, away from this mansion full of ghosts and might-have-beens. But as he reached the door, he heard her call out one more time. Noah, wait! He turned to find her running toward him, her cardigan flying behind her, her hair wild in the wind. She stopped a few feet away, breathless. I know you need time. I know you have Emma to think about and a life that doesn't include me. But when my father dies, there's going to be a will reading, and his lawyer mentioned your name. I don't know what that means, but I wanted you to know, in case you want to be there. Why would I be in his will? I don't know. He's been unpredictable lately. Making amends, he calls it. I just thought you should know. Noah processed this information, adding it to the mountain of impossible things he'd learned today. When? I'll let you know. It could be days, it could be weeks. The doctors aren't sure. She hugged herself tighter. I really am sorry, Noah. For all of it. For not fighting harder. For believing his lies. For every day of the last 10 years. I know, Noah said softly. I'm sorry too. The car ride back to the city passed in a blur. Noah held the box on his lap, not opening it, not quite ready to read the words of the boy he used to be. The boy who'd loved fearlessly because he hadn't yet learned that love could be weaponized. Emma was waiting when he got home, full of stories about her day. Noah made dinner, helped with more homework, went through their bedtime routine with mechanical precision. But his mind was elsewhere, stuck in a garden with a woman who'd been erased from his life by a dying man's manipulation. After Emma was asleep, Noah finally opened the box. The letters were arranged chronologically, each one in its original envelope, his own handwriting looking younger and more hopeful than he remembered. He picked up the first one, dated 2 weeks after Celeste stopped taking his calls. Dear Celeste, I'm not sure why you're not answering, but I figure I'll keep writing until you tell me to stop. Maybe you're busy with the new job. Maybe your phone broke. Maybe I'm being an idiot and you're just fine. But I miss you too much not to reach out. Today I saw a woman wearing your perfume on the subway, and I actually turned around, my heart jumping, thinking it might be you. It wasn't, obviously. No one looks like you. No one else exists in quite the same way. Call me when you can, or write. I'll be waiting. Love, Noah. He read through the night, watching his own desperation grow with each letter. Watching himself fracture and break and still reach out, convinced that love was enough, that if he just kept trying, she'd come back to him. The last letter, number 73, was different. Celeste, I'm not going to write anymore after this. I've sent you 72 letters and received nothing back. I showed up at your apartment and you were gone. Your roommate wouldn't tell me where you went. Your number is disconnected. I have to accept that you don't want to be found, that whatever we had, it's over. But I need you to know that I loved you. I loved you completely, honestly, with everything I had. And if I did something to drive you away, I'm sorry. I'd fix it if I knew what it was. I'd do anything. I hope you're happy. I hope whatever you chose instead of us was worth it. I'll always remember you. Noah. He set down the letter with shaking hands. That had been it. The moment he'd given up. And on the other side of the silence, Celeste had been doing the same thing, convinced he'd betrayed her, hardening her heart against a pain that had been manufactured. His phone buzzed. Another text from Celeste. I read your last letter, the one where you said goodbye. I'm reading it over and over and I can't breathe. Noah stared at the message, then slowly typed his response. I read yours. Your journal entry from the night you came to my apartment and saw the woman my father hired. You wrote that you wanted to die. The dots appeared immediately. I did. For a while. Then I got angry instead, turned it into fuel, built a company just to prove I didn't need anyone. And now? Now I have everything I thought I wanted, and it all feels empty. Because it's built on a foundation of lies. Noah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was dangerous territory. He should say goodnight, should put the phone down, should protect himself and Emma from whatever storm was brewing. Instead, he typed, We can't get back what we lost. You know that, right? I know, but maybe we can figure out what's left. What's real in all of this? I don't know if I can do that. I'm not asking you to decide tonight. Just don't disappear again. Not yet. Not until we figure out what truth looks like. Noah looked at the box of letters, at the evidence of a love that had been real and pure and destroyed by forces beyond their control. Then he looked at the photo of Emma on his phone's lock screen, his beautiful, perfect daughter who deserved a father who wasn't haunted by ghosts. Okay, I won't disappear. Thank you. Good night, Celeste. Good night, Noah. He set the phone down and closed the box, sealing away the past for now. Tomorrow he'd wake up and be a father, go to work, live his life. But tonight, for the first time in 10 years, he let himself wonder, what if? The days that followed moved like a fever dream. Noah went through the motions of his life. Breakfast with Emma, his shift at the community center where he worked as a youth counselor, evening routines that had become sacred in their predictability. But his mind kept drifting back to that box of letters, to Celeste's face in the garden, to the impossible weight of knowing that everything he'd believed for 10 years had been a carefully constructed lie. He didn't open the box again. It sat on his closet shelf like a grenade with the pin half pulled, too dangerous to touch, but impossible to throw away. 3 days after his visit to the Harper estate, his phone rang during his lunch break. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. Noah Bennett? A crisp, professional voice, male. Speaking. This is James Morrison, attorney for the Harper family. I'm calling to inform you that Richard Harper passed away this morning at 6:47 a.m. Noah's sandwich went still halfway to his mouth. He set it down slowly. I see. There will be a private service tomorrow at 2 p.m., followed by a will reading at 4. Mr. Harper specifically requested your presence at both. I'm sending the details to this number now. Why would he want me at his funeral? Morrison paused. I'm not privy to my client's reasoning, Mr. Bennett. I can only convey his wishes. Will you be attending? Noah closed his eyes. The smart answer was no. The safe answer was no. Yes, I'll be there. Excellent. The car will collect you at noon. Morrison hung up before Noah could ask what car, what service, what any of this meant. The text came through 30 seconds later with an address in Connecticut, service details, and a note at the bottom. Attire, dark suit, driver will be provided. Noah stared at his phone until his coworker Danny knocked on the break room door. Yo, Bennett, you good? You look like you've seen a ghost. Something like that, Noah muttered. That night, after Emma was asleep, he called the one person who might understand. His older sister Marie picked up on the third ring. This better be good. It's almost 11. Celeste is back. Silence. Then, Celeste? You're Celeste from college. She's not my anything. But yeah, that's Celeste. Holy shit. Marie's voice sharpened immediately. She'd been the one who'd held him when he fell apart 10 years ago, who'd forced him to eat and shower and keep living when all he wanted was to disappear. What does she want? Noah told her everything. The knock on the door, the dying father's confession, the box of intercepted letters, the funeral invitation. Marie listened without interrupting, which was how he knew she was taking it seriously. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Noah, I have to ask, do you believe her? I read the letters, Marie. My letters. I know what I felt, what I wrote, and she never got any of it. So it's all true. That bastard really did orchestrate the whole thing. Yeah. And now he's dead, and she wants you at his funeral. Why? I don't know. Maybe closure. Maybe guilt. Maybe she just doesn't want to face it alone. Noah rubbed his eyes. The lawyer said I'm in the will. You're what? I know. It makes no sense. The man destroyed my life, and now apparently he's left me something in his will. Marie's laugh was sharp and humorless. That's some manipulation from beyond the grave right there. What are you going to do? I'm going to the funeral. Noah, I have to, Marie. I need to see this through. I need to understand what the hell happened to us. And what about Emma? What about your life now? You can't just waltz back into Celeste's world because she showed up with some dead man's confession. I'm not waltzing anywhere. I'm going to a funeral, hearing what's in the will, and then I'm coming home to my daughter and my real life. You sure about that? Marie's voice gentled. Because I remember what you were like when you loved her. And I remember what you were like when she left. I don't want to see you go through that again. It won't be like that. We're different people now. Keep telling yourself that, little brother. After they hung up, Noah stood by Emma's door again, watching her sleep in the glow of her nightlight. Marie was right to worry. He was playing with fire. But some part of him needed to see this through to the end, needed to close this chapter properly instead of letting it fester for another 10 years. His phone buzzed with a text from Celeste. "You're coming tomorrow?" "Yes." "Thank you. I know you don't owe me anything, but I'm grateful you'll be there. How are you holding up?" The three dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came through. "I don't know. I'm sad and angry and relieved all at once. He was my father and I loved him, but he also destroyed the best thing in my life and never told me until it was too late to fix it. How am I supposed to mourn that?" Noah understood that feeling more than he wanted to admit. You mourn the parts that were real, and you let go of the rest. Is that what you did when I disappeared? He thought about the months after she left, the drinking that got bad enough for Marie to intervene, the jobs he couldn't hold, the slow, painful climb back to something resembling functional, then Emma's mother showing up pregnant, and how that had forced him to finally become someone worth being, eventually. It took a while. I'm sorry I put you through that. You didn't, your father did. Still, I should have fought harder, should have demanded proof instead of just believing his lies. We were kids, Celeste. We did the best we could with what we knew. Were we really that young? 22 feels ancient now. Everything feels ancient now. A pause, then. Will you sit with me tomorrow? At the service? I know that's asking a lot, but I could use a familiar face. Noah's finger hovered over the keyboard. This was the line he knew. Once he crossed it, there would be no pretending this was just about closure or understanding. This was about stepping back into her orbit, letting her matter again. Yes. I'll sit with you. Thank you. He put the phone away before he could second-guess himself and tried to sleep. It didn't come easy. The next morning, Noah dropped Emma at school and explained he had to attend a funeral for someone he used to know. She asked if the sad lady would be there, and he said yes, and she told him to give the sad lady a hug because hugs help when people are sad. 8-year-old wisdom, simple and true. The car arrived at noon exactly, the same silent driver from before. Noah wore his only suit, the one he'd bought for job interviews 3 years ago. It felt tight across the shoulders now. He'd been working out more, trying to outrun the restlessness that came with single parenthood and memories he couldn't quite bury. The drive to Connecticut took 2 hours through increasingly pristine neighborhoods until they reached a church that looked like it had been imported stone by stone from England. The parking lot was full of expensive cars, and well-dressed people streamed toward the entrance in somber clusters. Noah felt wildly out of place. Celeste was waiting by the church steps, wearing a black dress and coat that probably cost more than his car. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed, but dry. When she saw him, something in her expression cracked. "You came," she said, as if she doubted it until this moment. "I said I would." She stepped closer, and for a moment he thought she might hug him. Instead, she just looked at him with something that might have been gratitude or desperation, or both. "I don't think I can do this alone," she admitted quietly. "You're not alone." They walked into the church together. Inside, the service was everything Noah expected from a man like Richard Harper: formal, expensive, impersonal. The minister had clearly never met the deceased, speaking in generalities about business acumen and philanthropy. Various executives and society figures gave eulogies that praised Richard's vision and leadership while carefully avoiding anything that might resemble genuine emotion. Noah sat beside Celeste in the front pew and felt her trembling. She kept her hands folded in her lap, her spine rigid, her face a mask of composure. But her shoulder pressed against his, a small point of contact that anchored them both. When it was her turn to speak, she walked to the pulpit with steady steps. Noah watched her survey the assembled crowd of people who'd come to pay respects to a titan of industry. "My father," Celeste began, her voice carrying clearly through the church, "was a complicated man. He built an empire. He created opportunities for thousands of people. He was brilliant and driven and absolutely convinced that he knew what was best for everyone around him." A few uncomfortable shifts in the pews, This wasn't the eulogy they'd expected. He was also controlling, manipulative. He made decisions about other people's lives without their consent because he believed his judgment was superior to theirs. Celeste's hands gripped the pulpit edge. 3 days before he died, he confessed to me that he'd destroyed the most important relationship of my life because he didn't think the man I loved was good enough. He intercepted letters, staged elaborate deceptions, and systematically dismantled my happiness because he thought he was protecting me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Noah saw heads turning, people whispering. Celeste's eyes found his across the church. That man is here today, and I want everyone in this room to know that my father spent his final days trying to make amends for what he'd done. Not because it would change anything, the damage was done, but because even Richard Harper in the end understood that love is not something you can control or improve or optimize. It just is, and destroying it doesn't make you powerful. It makes you lonely. She paused, her voice softening. I loved my father. I'll miss him, but I won't pretend he was perfect, and I won't let his memory be sanitized into something he wasn't. He was human, flawed, sometimes cruel, and in his last moments, finally honest. She stepped down from the pulpit and walked back to her seat. The church was dead silent. Noah reached over and took her hand, squeezing once. She held on like he was the only thing keeping her from floating away. The rest of the service passed in a blur. At the cemetery, they stood under a gray sky while Richard Harper was lowered into the ground beside his wife, who'd died 5 years earlier. Celeste stood statue still throughout, her hand still in Noah's, and he wondered if she'd ever let go. After the burial, people approached Celeste with murmured condolences and carefully neutral expressions. Some glanced at Noah with open curiosity. He heard whispers. Who is that? Did you hear what she said? Absolutely scandalous. But Celeste seemed oblivious to all of it. When the crowd finally dispersed, Morrison approached them. Ms. Harper, Mr. Bennett, the will reading is scheduled for 4 p.m. at the estate. If you'd like to rest first, let's just get it over with, Celeste said flatly. They rode back to the mansion in silence. Noah watched her stare out the window at the passing scenery, her expression unreadable. That was a hell of a eulogy, he said finally. I couldn't stand up there and lie. Not after everything. She turned to look at him. Are you angry I talked about us? About what he did? No, those people should know what kind of man he really was. The board is going to lose their minds. The PR team will have a stroke, but I don't care. She laughed, a brittle sound. For once in my life, I don't care what they think. At the estate, Morrison led them to the same study where Richard had made his confession. A handful of other people were already there, distant cousins, a few key executives, Richard's longtime assistant. They all stared at Noah with varying degrees of confusion. Morrison settled behind the desk and opened a leather portfolio. Thank you all for being here. This is the last will and testament of Richard Marcus Harper, executed 3 days before his death and superseding all previous versions. He began reading. Most of it was predictable. Charitable donations, bequests to long-term employees, trust funds for distant relatives. Noah half listened, wondering why he was even here. Then Morrison reached the main provisions. To my daughter, Celeste Harper, I leave controlling interest in Harper Industries and the bulk of my personal fortune, with the following conditions. Morrison paused, glancing at Celeste. The Harper family estate, including the main house, grounds, and all associated properties, is to be held in joint ownership by Celeste Harper and Noah Bennett, with decisions regarding its use requiring unanimous agreement between them. The room erupted. Noah sat frozen, certain he'd misheard. Celeste's hand flew to her mouth. Morrison raised his voice over the chaos. Furthermore, a trust fund of $5 million is established in Noah Bennett's name, accessible only if he agrees to serve as co-trustee of the Harper Foundation for Educational Opportunity, working alongside Celeste Harper to direct the foundation's scholarship programs and grant distributions. This is insane, one of the cousins sputtered. Who is this person? Why is he getting anything? Because, Morrison said calmly, Richard Harper believed he owed Mr. Bennett a debt that could never be fully repaid, and this was his attempt to make amends. The will is legal and binding. Anyone who wishes to contest it may do so, but I should warn you that Mr. Harper anticipated such challenges and included provisions that will make contesting extremely costly and unlikely to succeed. Noah found his voice. I don't want his money. You don't have a choice, Morrison replied. The estate cannot be sold or disposed of without your agreement. The foundation cannot operate without both trustees' participation. Richard Harper has, in essence, bound the two of you together in managing his legacy. Celeste stood abruptly. Everyone out, now! Ms. Harper, one of the executives began. Out! Her voice cracked like a whip. They filed out, shooting dark looks at Noah as they went. Morrison gathered his papers. I'll leave you to discuss this. My contact information is in the packet. Once you've had time to process, we can meet to discuss next steps. When they were alone, Celeste turned to Noah. Did you know about this? Of course not. Why would I know? Because it's insane. He left you half his estate. He made you responsible for his foundation. He tied us together so completely that we can't escape each other even if we wanted to. She paced the room, her heels clicking against the floor. This is manipulation from beyond the grave. He destroyed our relationship 10 years ago, and now he's trying to force us back together. It's sick. We don't have to accept it, Noah said, though he wasn't sure if that was true. We can refuse the inheritance, dissolve the foundation. You can't refuse. Morrison said so. The trust is in your name whether you use it or not. And the estate is legally yours as much as mine now. Celeste stopped pacing, facing him. Don't you see what he did? He took away our choice again, just like before. We don't get to decide if we want to be in each other's lives. He decided for us. Noah stood and walked to the window overlooking the gardens where they'd talked 3 days ago. The snow had melted slightly, revealing patches of dead grass underneath. Maybe, he said slowly, he was trying to give us back what he took. Time together, a reason to talk, to work through what happened. A chance to what? Fall in love again? Erase the past 10 years? Noah, we're not those kids anymore. I'm a CEO who hasn't had a real relationship in a decade because I can't trust anyone. You're a single father who's built a whole life without me. We can't just pick up where we left off. I'm not suggesting we pick up anything, but we can't pretend the past didn't happen either. He turned to face her. Maybe your father was right about one thing. Maybe we do need time to figure out what's real and what was the lie. And maybe having to work together on something meaningful is a way to do that without the pressure of trying to recapture something that's gone. Celeste's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I don't know if I can do this. Being around you, remembering what we were, it hurts too much. It hurts me too, but running from it hasn't made it stop hurting. Maybe facing it will. She crossed the room to stand in front of him, close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her green eyes, could smell that expensive perfume that wasn't vanilla but still somehow suited her. What if we try this and it destroys us all over again, she whispered. What if we don't try and spend another 10 years wondering what if? They stood there in the fading afternoon light, two people bound together by a dead man's last wish and a past they couldn't escape. Finally, Celeste nodded. Okay, we'll do it his way. We'll manage the estate together, run the foundation together. But I need you to promise me something. What? Be honest with me. Always. If this gets to be too much, if you need space, if you start to hate me, tell me. Don't just disappear. I can't survive that again. I promise. Same goes for you. She held out her hand. Partners then. In cleaning up my father's mess, Noah took her hand, and the moment their skin touched, he felt it, that electric current that had always existed between them, muted by time and pain but not extinguished. They shook once, formally, and then Celeste pulled away, wrapping her arms around herself. I should go, Noah said. I need to get home to Emma. Of course, the driver can take you. Celeste walked him to the door, then paused. Noah, thank you for coming today, for sitting with me, for not hating me. I never hated you, Celeste. That was the problem. He left her standing in the doorway of her father's house, surrounded by wealth and loneliness, and rode back to the city thinking about choice and fate, and whether there was any real difference between them. When he got home, Emma was waiting with Mrs. Chen, full of questions about the funeral and the sad lady and whether Noah had given her a hug like she'd suggested. Not exactly, Noah said, but I think she felt better knowing someone was there. Good. Everyone needs someone. Emma went back to her coloring book, the wisdom delivered and forgotten in the way of children. That night, Noah's phone lit up with a text from Celeste. I've been thinking about the estate. If we're going to manage it together, you should probably see it properly. Not just the study where my father made his confession. Would you be willing to come back this weekend? I can show you around. We can start planning what to do with it. Noah thought about Emma, about his weekend routine of park visits and grocery shopping and the simple rhythms that kept him sane. Emma comes with me. I'm not leaving her behind for this. Of course, I'd like to meet her properly, if that's okay with you. He hesitated, then typed, Saturday afternoon. 2 hours, that's it. Thank you. I'll have lunch ready. Saturday arrived cold and bright. Noah drove this time. Emma buckled into the back seat with her tablet and a bag of books. She'd asked 100 questions about where they were going, who they were seeing, and whether there would be dessert. Noah had answered as honestly as he could. They were visiting the sad lady's house, helping her figure out what to do with it, and yes, there would probably be dessert. Is the sad lady your friend? Emma asked as they turned onto the estate's long driveway. She used to be, a long time ago. And now? Noah glanced at his daughter in the rearview mirror. I'm not sure yet, sweetheart. The house looked different in daylight, less forbidding and more just absurdly large. Emma pressed her face to the window. Whoa, that's not a house, that's a castle. Pretty much. Celeste was waiting on the steps, and Noah was struck by how different she looked. She wore jeans and a cream sweater, her hair in a simple ponytail, her face free of makeup. She looked younger, more like the girl he remembered. Emma tumbled out of the car and stared up at Celeste with open curiosity. You're really tall. Celeste laughed, a genuine sound that Noah hadn't heard in days. You're pretty tall yourself. You must be Emma. Yep. Dad says you're sad because your dad died. I'm sorry. My mom left, but she's not dead. She just didn't want to be a mom anymore. Dad says everyone makes their own choices. Noah winced. Emma, it's okay, Celeste said quickly, crouching down to Emma's level. Your dad is right, and I am sad, but having visitors helps. Do you want to see inside? Emma nodded enthusiastically and took Celeste's offered hand without hesitation, the way kids do when they decide someone is safe. Noah followed them into the house, watching his daughter and his past walk side by side, and felt his carefully constructed walls beginning to crumble. Celeste gave them a tour that was clearly designed for an 8-year-old's attention span. She showed Emma the library with its rolling ladder, the conservatory with its indoor fountain, the kitchen that was bigger than Noah's entire apartment. Emma was enchanted by all of it, spinning in circles and asking if there were secret passages. Probably, Celeste said. My father was dramatic enough to build them. We could explore and find out. They had lunch in a sunny breakfast room that overlooked the gardens. Celeste had ordered pizza. I'm a terrible cook, she admitted, and Emma declared her the coolest grown-up ever. After Emma wandered off to explore the library, Noah and Celeste sat across from each other at the table, coffee cups between them. She's amazing, Celeste said softly. You've done an incredible job with her. I've done my best. It's not always enough. It seems pretty enough to me. Celeste traced the rim of her cup. Can I ask what happened with her mother? Noah sighed. Jessica, we met about a year after you disappeared. I was still a mess, trying to figure out how to function, and she was there and interested, and I thought maybe I could learn to love someone else. Then she got pregnant, and we tried to make it work. For a while it seemed like maybe we could, but she never wanted to be a mother. She went through with the pregnancy thinking she'd feel different once Emma was born, but she didn't. She stayed for 5 years, increasingly miserable, until finally she just left. Moved to California, sends birthday cards twice a year, pays child support but doesn't want custody. Emma barely remembers her. That must have been devastating. It was clarifying, actually, showed me what real love looks like and what settling looks like. I loved Emma from the moment she was born. Jessica never did. You can't force those feelings. Celeste was quiet for a moment. Did you love Jessica? I tried to, but no, not really. I think I was just trying to fill the hole you left. He met her eyes. That's not fair to put on you. It was my choice. But it's the truth. I never dated anyone after you, Celeste said abruptly. I told myself it was because I was focused on building the company, on proving myself. But really, I just couldn't trust anyone enough to let them close. Every time someone showed interest, I'd remember how completely I believed you'd betrayed me, and I'd shut down. 10 years, Celeste. That's a long time to be alone. I had work. I had success. I built something that mattered. She laughed bitterly. At least that's what I told myself. Now I look at Emma in there, surrounded by books in a house full of things my father bought to compensate for never really being present. And I wonder if I built anything real at all. Noah reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. You built Harper Industries from a subsidiary into a powerhouse. You've employed thousands of people. That's real. Is it? Or is it just another way of running from the thing I was too scared to face? She looked at him fully. Do you know what I thought when I found out what my father did? My first thought wasn't anger or sadness. It was relief. Relief that you hadn't chosen to leave me, that I wasn't unlovable or not enough, that the man I'd built my entire emotional fortress to protect against never actually existed. You were never not enough, Celeste. Not then. Not now. Then why does it still hurt this much? Before Noah could answer, Emma came bounding back into the room. There's a whole section of fairy tales in there. Can I borrow some? You can have them, Celeste said immediately. Take as many as you want. Emma's eyes went wide. Really? Really? They're just sitting there. Books should be read. Emma threw her arms around Celeste in an impulsive hug that made Celeste freeze for a moment before carefully hugging back. Over Emma's head, her eyes met Noah's, and he saw naked longing there. Not for him necessarily, but for this. The warmth, the spontaneity, the simple human connection she'd denied herself for a decade. They spent another hour at the estate. Celeste showed Noah the foundation's current grant portfolio, the scholarship recipients, the educational programs Richard had funded. It was impressive, genuinely helpful work that had changed lives. We could do more, Celeste said. If we're running it together, we could expand the reach, target underserved communities, create programs for kids like... She trailed off, glancing at where Emma was reading on a window seat. Like Emma, Noah finished. Single-parent households, economic hardship, kids who need opportunities. Yes, exactly. Celeste pulled out a laptop. I've been thinking about this since the will reading. What if we turn this estate into something useful? Not just a monument to my father's wealth, but an actual resource. We could host summer programs, create a scholarship residential program, transform these empty rooms into spaces that matter. Noah felt something shift in his chest. This was the Celeste he remembered, passionate, visionary, determined to make things better. But tempered now with experience and pain, channeled into something concrete rather than just ambitious dreams. That could work, he said slowly. We'd need staff, funding beyond the trust, accreditation if we're housing kids. I can handle the logistics. I have connections, resources. But I need someone who understands what these kids actually need. Someone who works with them, who sees them as people, not statistics. She looked at him. I need you to tell me if I'm building another empty monument or something real. Why does my opinion matter so much? Because you're the only person who's ever told me the truth. Who saw me as Celeste, not as Richard Harper's daughter or the CEO or any other title. You saw me, and I need someone who can see clearly in all of this. They locked eyes, and Noah felt the weight of what she was really asking. Not just partnership in a foundation, but permission to try again, to build something together that might heal what was broken. I'm in, he said. But we do this right. Professional boundaries, clear communication, and Emma comes first, always. Emma comes first, Celeste agreed. I wouldn't have it any other way. On the drive home, Emma chattered about the castle and the books and how nice the sad lady was. I like her, Dad. Can we visit again? Probably, Noah said. We're going to be working together on some projects. Good. She needs more hugs. And maybe a dog. Everyone's happier with a dog. Noah smiled despite himself. I'll suggest it. That night, after Emma was asleep, Celeste texted him. Thank you for bringing her. She's wonderful. You should be proud. I am. Thanks for being so good with her. It was easy. She makes it easy. A pause, then. I keep thinking about what we talked about, turning the estate into something meaningful. I want to do this, Noah. I want to build something that matters. Then let's build it. Together? Together. Noah set his phone down and looked at the box of letters still sitting on his closet shelf. 10 years of silence, of separate lives built on broken foundations. And now a chance to build something new, not despite the past, but because of it. He didn't know if it would work, didn't know if working with Celeste would heal old wounds or tear open new ones. But for the first time in a decade, he felt something other than resignation. He felt possibility. Over the next 6 weeks, Noah's life split into two distinct realities. There was his daily existence, Emma's school runs, his counseling sessions at the community center, the small apartment that had become their sanctuary. And then there was the world of the Harper estate, where he and Celeste met 3 times a week to transform Richard Harper's monument into something that might actually help people. They started small. Celeste hired an architectural firm to assess the property's potential for educational use. Noah brought in colleagues from the community center to consult on what at-risk youth actually needed. They spent hours in the estate's library, laptops open, sketching out programs and budgets and timelines, carefully maintaining the professional distance they'd promised each other. Except it was getting harder. Noah noticed the small things first. The way Celeste tucked her hair behind her ear when she was concentrating, how she still drank her coffee with too much sugar and denied it was too sweet. The unconscious habit she had of touching his arm when she wanted to emphasize a point, then pulling back as if she'd been burned. He noticed because he was doing the same things, catching himself staring at her profile when she was focused on spreadsheets, laughing too hard at her jokes, finding excuses to stay later than necessary, to extend their meetings, to text her about foundation business at 11 p.m. when it could have waited until morning. Emma noticed too, in her own way. "You smile different now," she announced one evening while they were making dinner. Noah looked up from chopping vegetables. "Different how?" "Like when you're texting Celeste. You get this look. Like when I get extra chocolate chips in my pancakes. A surprised, happy look. "Oh, we're just working together, sweetheart." Emma gave him a look that was far too knowing for an 8-year-old. "Uh-huh. That's why you check your phone every 5 minutes. She wasn't wrong. Noah had become acutely aware of his phone, of the small thrill he got when Celeste's name appeared on the screen. They texted constantly now, about the foundation, yes, but also about smaller things. She'd send him photos of ridiculous corporate memos. He'd share Emma's latest art projects. Gradually, carefully, they were weaving themselves back into each other's daily lives. It was during their 7th week of working together that everything shifted. They were at the estate going through applications for the foundation's first round of expanded scholarships. Celeste had her reading glasses on, the ones that made her look simultaneously more professional and more vulnerable. Outside, March rain battered the windows, turning the afternoon gray and intimate. "This one," Celeste said, sliding an application across the table to Noah. "Jamal Williams, 16, single mother working 2 jobs, wants to study engineering. His essay is remarkable." Noah scanned it, nodding. "He's exactly who we should be supporting. Full scholarship plus living stipend." "Agreed." Celeste made a note, then set down her pen. "Can I ask you something personal?" The shift in her tone made Noah look up. "Okay. Do you ever wonder what our lives would have looked like if my father hadn't interfered? Where we'd be now?" It was the question they'd both been carefully avoiding for weeks. Noah set down the application. "Every day." "What do you think would have happened?" "Honestly, I don't know. Maybe we would have made it. Maybe we would have crashed and burned on our own without your father's help." He met her eyes. "But at least it would have been our choice." Celeste pulled off her glasses, rubbing the bridge of her nose. "I think about it constantly. I imagine some alternate timeline where I got your letters, where you got my calls, where we just continued. And in that timeline, we probably got married too young. Maybe we would have struggled financially while you finished your degree. Maybe I would have resented giving up business school to follow you to whatever job you took." "Maybe," Noah agreed. "Or maybe we would have figured it out together. Or maybe we would have ended up exactly where we are now, just with less pain getting here." She laughed softly. "That's the cruel part, isn't it? We can never know. We only get this timeline, this version of events, and we have to make peace with it somehow. Is that what we're doing? Making peace?" Celeste was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing patterns on the table. "I thought that's what this was. Working together, building something good, proving we could be adults about what happened. But lately..." "Lately what?" She looked at him, and the careful professional mask she'd been wearing for weeks cracked completely. Lately, I remember why I loved you, and it terrifies me. The admission hung in the air between them like a live wire. Noah's heart hammered. Celeste, I'm not asking for anything, she interrupted quickly. I know we can't just pick up where we left off. I know you have Emma to think about, and a whole life that doesn't include me. I just needed you to know that this isn't easy for me either, sitting across from you, working beside you, pretending I don't remember everything we were to each other. You think it's easy for me? Noah heard his voice rise. You think I don't lie awake at night wondering what the hell I'm doing, whether I'm setting myself up to get destroyed all over again? I spent 3 years learning how to be a functional parent, how to build a stable life for my daughter. And now I'm right back where I started, completely consumed by thoughts of you. Celeste stood abruptly, walking to the window. Then maybe we should stop. Maybe this was a mistake. We can hire someone else to co-manage the foundation, handle everything through lawyers and intermediaries. Is that what you want? I want not to feel like this. She spun to face him. I want not to check my phone every 5 minutes, hoping you've texted. I want not to plan my outfits for our meetings like I'm 22 again. I want not to imagine what it would feel like if you kissed me, if we tried again, if we were brave enough to risk everything on something that already destroyed us once. Noah was on his feet before he'd made a conscious decision to move. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping just short of touching her. What are we doing, Celeste? I don't know. Her voice broke. I don't know, and it's killing me. They stood there in the rain-dimmed light, close enough to touch, not quite brave enough to cross that final distance. Noah's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again, insistent. You should check that, Celeste said quietly. It might be Emma's school. It was. Noah's stomach dropped as he read the message. Emma's running a fever. They need me to pick her up. Go, Celeste said immediately. We can finish this later. We need to talk about later, Noah. Your daughter needs you. He grabbed his coat, then paused at the door. This isn't finished. I know. The drive back to the city was a blur. Noah picked up Emma from the school nurse, felt her forehead, warm but not dangerously so, and took her home. She dozed on the couch while he made soup, her small body curled under a blanket, and he felt the familiar weight of single parenthood settling back over his shoulders. This was real. This mattered. Emma's health, her stability, the life they'd built together. Everything else, Celeste, the foundation, the complicated tangle of past and present, was secondary. His phone rang. Celeste. How is she? Celeste asked before he could say hello. Just a fever, probably the flu that's going around her school. She'll be fine. Good. That's good. A pause. Noah, about what I said earlier. Don't take it back. I wasn't going to. I was going to say that maybe we need to be honest about what's happening here. We're not just colleagues working on a foundation. We're not just old friends finding closure. We're 2 people who loved each other once, who never really stopped, and who have no idea how to navigate that. Noah looked at Emma, sleeping on the couch. I can't risk her, Celeste. If this goes wrong, if we try and it falls apart, I can't let that chaos touch her life. I understand. I would never ask you to choose between her and anything else. She should always come first. But maybe we're so busy protecting ourselves from getting hurt again that we're hurting anyway. We're already involved, Noah. We're already in each other's lives. The question is whether we're brave enough to admit what we want it to be. Before Noah could respond, Emma stirred on the couch. Dad? I don't feel good. I have to go, Noah said into the phone. We'll talk later. Take care of her. And Noah? Whatever happens with us, I meant what I said. Emma comes first, always. The next 3 days passed in the fog of child illness. Emma's fever spiked and broke. Noah took time off work, administered medicine, watched endless cartoons, and tried not to think about the conversation he'd left unfinished. Celeste texted updates about the foundation, but didn't push for anything more. Just practical messages about scholarship decisions and contractor estimates, as if they hadn't almost crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. On the 4th day, when Emma was finally fever-free and bored out of her mind, a delivery arrived. A massive box from a toy store, addressed to Emma. Inside was an elaborate art supply kit. Professional-grade colored pencils, sketchbooks, watercolors, everything a creative 8-year-old could want. The card read, "For when you're feeling better and need new projects, get well soon. Celeste." Emma's eyes went wide. "Dad, this is amazing. Can I use it now?" "After you eat some lunch." While Emma picked at her grilled cheese, Noah texted Celeste. "That was too much. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to." "Is she feeling better?" "Much." "Thank you. Good. I missed our meetings. The estate feels empty without you and Emma." Noah stared at that message for a long time. Without you and Emma. As if they were a unit. As if they belonged there. She asked if we could visit this weekend. "If you're feeling up to visitors." "Always." "Come for lunch Saturday. I'll make sure to order the right kind of pizza." Saturday arrived warm and sunny, the first real hint of spring. Emma bounced with renewed energy, chattering about showing Celeste her new drawings. Noah drove to the estate, trying to ignore the nervous anticipation building in his chest. Celeste met them at the door wearing jeans and a soft blue sweater that matched her eyes. She hugged Emma carefully, asking about the fever and admiring the sketches Emma had brought. "These are incredible," Celeste said, studying a drawing of a fairy castle. "You're really talented, Emma. Dad says I got it from my mom. She was good at art too before she left." An uncomfortable pause. Noah intervened quickly. "Why don't you go explore the library while Celeste and I talk about boring grown-up stuff?" Emma rolled her eyes but disappeared into the house, already pulling out her new art supplies. Alone with Celeste, Noah felt the weight of everything unsaid pressing down on them. "We should probably talk," he said. "Probably." They walked through the house to the conservatory, where spring sunlight streamed through glass walls and the fountain burbled peacefully. Celeste sat on a bench, and Noah joined her, maintaining a careful distance. "I've been thinking," Celeste began, "about what you said, about not being able to risk Emma. And you're right. She should be protected. But Noah, I think we need to acknowledge something." "What?" "We're already in each other's lives. We're already taking risks just by working together, by letting ourselves care again. The question isn't whether to protect Emma from potential pain, it's whether we're modeling something honest or something fearful." Noah frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean that Emma is watching us. She sees how you talk about me, how you check your phone, how you smile when we text. And what is she learning? That you can care about someone but hold them at arm's length forever? That past pain means never risking again?" Celeste turned to face him. "Or is she learning that sometimes people hurt each other without meaning to, and sometimes they get a second chance, and sometimes taking that chance is worth the risk? That's not fair. You're using my daughter to But I'm not using anyone. I'm asking you what you want, not what's safe, not what's smart, what you actually want." Noah stood, pacing the length of the conservatory. "What I want is complicated. Try me. I want to go back in time and punch your father in his smug face. I want those 10 years back. I want to have been there when you made your first million, when you took Harper Industries public, for all the moments that should have been shared." He spun to face her. "And I want you. Not the memory of who you were, not some fantasy of what we might have been. I want the woman sitting in front of me right now, with all your sharp edges and walls, and the way you can't cook, and how you look at Emma like she's the most precious thing you've ever seen." Celeste's breath caught. "Noah, but I'm terrified, because I have a daughter who's already been abandoned by one person who is supposed to love her. And if I let you into our lives, if I let Emma get attached to you, and then this doesn't work..." He sat back down, his head in his hands. "I don't know if I could survive it. And I know Emma couldn't." The silence stretched between them. Then Celeste spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Do you know what I did after you left that day I told you my father was dying? After you drove away and I stood in that doorway watching your taillights disappear?" Noah shook his head. "I went to my father's room. He was barely conscious, more morphine than man at that point, and I asked him, was it worth it, destroying us? Do you know what he said?" "What?" "He said, I thought I was saving you from a mistake. I was wrong. You would have been happy. That's what I stole. Your happiness. And I'm sorry." Celeste's voice cracked. Those were almost his last coherent words to me, and I've been thinking about them constantly, because he was right. We would have been happy. Maybe not perfect, maybe not forever, but happy. She reached out, taking Noah's hand. He didn't pull away. I can't promise you forever, she continued. I can't promise that this won't end in heartbreak. But I can promise that I will never lie to you. I will never manipulate you. I will never put my ambition or my pride above your feelings or Emma's well-being. And if you give me a chance, a real chance, not this half-friendship we've been pretending at, I will spend every day trying to be worthy of it. Noah looked at their joined hands, at the way her fingers fit between his like they'd been designed for it. I'm scared, he admitted. Me too. I'm absolutely terrified, but I'm more scared of spending another 10 years wondering what if. Emma would be part of this from the beginning. No secrets, no pretending. We'd take it slow, let her adjust, make sure she feels secure. Celeste squeezed his hand. And if at any point this becomes harmful to her, we stop. Her well-being is non-negotiable. Noah thought about the past 6 weeks, the slow rebuilding of trust, the easy conversations and shared laughter, the way Celeste looked at Emma with such careful tenderness, as if she was afraid of breaking something precious. He thought about the box of letters on his closet shelf, evidence of a love that had been real and pure and stolen. He thought about the future Richard Harper had tried to orchestrate from beyond the grave, binding them together through the estate and foundation. And he thought about what he actually wanted, stripped of fear and practicality and protective walls. Okay, he said. Celeste blinked. Okay? Let's try. Carefully. Slowly. With Emma's needs at the center of everything. But let's try. The smile that broke across her face was radiant, transforming her from the polished CEO into someone young and hopeful and achingly vulnerable. Really? Really? She launched herself at him, wrapping her arms around his neck in a hug that nearly knocked them both off the bench. Noah caught her, steadying them, and then they were just holding each other, 10 years of longing and loss and love pouring into that single embrace. When they finally pulled apart, both of them had tears on their faces. We should probably tell Emma, Noah said, wiping his eyes. What are we going to say? The truth. That we knew each other a long time ago, that we cared about each other, and that we're going to see if we can care about each other again. But that it's going to take time, and we need her to tell us if she's uncomfortable with anything. Celeste nodded. I can do that. I can be honest. They found Emma in the library, surrounded by books and art supplies, completely absorbed in drawing a detailed picture of the conservatory fountain. Hey, sweetheart, Noah said, sitting on the floor beside her. Can we talk to you about something important? Emma looked up, her expression immediately cautious. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. Celeste and I just want to be honest with you about something. Celeste sat down on Emma's other side, carefully leaving space. Emma, your dad and I knew each other before you were born. We were actually very close friends, but some things happened that separated us for a long time. What things? Emma asked, with a child's directness. Noah and Celeste exchanged a glance. How much truth was appropriate for an 8-year-old? Grown-up things, Noah said finally. Misunderstandings and mistakes. But the important part is that we're getting a second chance to be friends again. And we wanted you to know that we might start spending more time together, all 3 of us. Emma looked between them with those 2 knowing eyes. Like dating? Celeste laughed softly. Maybe eventually. Right now we're just getting to know each other again after a long time apart. But you like each other, Emma pressed. Like each other. Yes, Noah admitted. We do. Emma considered this, her pencil tapping against her sketchbook. Will you leave like my mom did, if Dad makes you mad or you get bored? The question hit like a physical blow. Celeste's expression crumpled. Oh, Emma, no. She shifted closer, making sure she was at eye level. I can't promise that your dad and I will work out forever. Grown-up relationships are complicated, but I can promise that I will never, ever abandon you. Even if your dad and I decide we're better as just friends, you and I can still be friends. If you want that. Really? Really? Because you're amazing and funny and talented, and any adult would be lucky to have you in their life. Your mom made a choice that had nothing to do with how wonderful you are. That was her loss. And I don't plan on making the same mistake. Emma studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, but if you're going to be around more, you should know some rules. Rules? Celeste asked, surprised. Yeah, like Dad has to read to me every night before bed, so you can't take up all his evening time. And we have movie night every Friday. And I get to ask questions if I don't understand something. Noah felt his throat tighten with love for his daughter's careful protection of their routines. Those are excellent rules, Celeste said seriously. I would never want to disrupt your time with your dad. He's the most important person in your world, and that's how it should be. Not the most important, Emma corrected. We're a team. But yeah, pretty important. They spent the rest of the afternoon together, the three of them. Celeste showed Emma the conservatory's fountain up close, explaining how the water circulated. Noah sketched beside his daughter, something he hadn't done in years, while Celeste watched them both with soft eyes. It felt easy, natural, like this could actually work. When they left that evening, Emma hugged Celeste goodbye without prompting, and Celeste held her like she was made of spun glass. Thank you, she whispered to Noah as they stood by the car. For what? For trusting me. For giving us a chance. For Emma. Noah kissed her forehead, a gentle gesture that felt monumental. We'll figure it out together. On the drive home, Emma was quiet until they were almost back to the city. Dad? Yes, sweetheart? I like her. Celeste. She's not like other grown-ups. How so? She talks to me like I'm real, not like I'm cute or little or something to pat on the head. She talks to me like I matter. You do matter. To both of us. Emma nodded, satisfied. Good. Because I think she needs us. Out of the mouths of children, Noah thought. 8 years old, and she'd seen straight to the heart of it. That night, after Emma was in bed, Noah finally did something he'd been avoiding for weeks. He took the box of letters down from the closet shelf and read through them all, one by one, letting himself feel the full weight of what had been lost and what they were trying to build back. When he reached the last letter, his goodbye, written in desperation and grief, he pulled out his phone and texted Celeste. I read all the letters tonight, every single one. How do you feel? Like I'm saying goodbye to someone I used to be, and hello to someone I might become. I like the sound of that. Celeste? Yes? I'm glad you knocked on my door that night, even though it hurt, even though it turned everything upside down. I'm glad you came back. Me too. Best decision I've made in 10 years. Noah set his phone down and looked at the letters one last time. Then he gathered them carefully, put them back in the box, and returned it to the closet shelf. The past would always be there, a foundation they were built on. But for the first time in a decade, Noah was more interested in the future than in what might have been. And that future, terrifying and uncertain as it was, included Celeste Harper and all the complicated hope she brought with her. Spring unfolded slowly, and with it, a careful reconstruction of something that felt both familiar and entirely new. Noah and Celeste didn't rush. They couldn't afford to, not with Emma's heart in the balance alongside their own. Their first official date happened 3 weeks after the conversation in the conservatory, and it was laughably awkward. Celeste picked a restaurant so expensive that Noah felt underdressed despite wearing his best shirt. They sat across from each other making stilted small talk like strangers, until finally Celeste set down her menu and laughed. This is ridiculous. We've worked together for 2 months. We text each other constantly, and now we're sitting here like it's a blind date arranged by our mothers. Noah relaxed immediately. I was trying to figure out if I'm supposed to order the thing I can actually pronounce, or the thing that sounds impressive. Order whatever you want. I'm getting a burger. They have burgers here? They have everything here. That's why it's absurdly overpriced. She flagged down the waiter. 2 cheeseburgers, medium rare, extra fries. And can you turn down the terrible violin music? The waiter looked scandalized, but complied. Within minutes, the atmosphere shifted from painfully formal to almost comfortable. Better? Celeste asked. Much. Though I have to say, watching you boss around fancy waiters is pretty attractive. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. I spent too many years pretending to be someone I'm not, trying to fit into my father's vision of what a CEO should be. I'm done with that. Who are you then, without the pretense? Celeste considered the question seriously. I'm still figuring that out. I know I'm someone who works too much, someone who uses spreadsheets to avoid feelings, someone who hasn't had a real friend in years because I couldn't trust anyone enough to let them close. She met his eyes. And I'm someone who's terrified she's forgotten how to be loved. Noah reached across the table, taking her hand. You haven't forgotten. It's like riding a bike. Terrifying and awkward at first, but it comes back. Have you been on a bike recently? I crashed into a mailbox last time I tried. Then I guess we're both going to have some bruises before we figure this out. The evening improved from there. They talked about everything and nothing. Emma's latest obsession with marine biology, Celeste's ongoing battle with her board of directors who thought she was spending too much time on philanthropy, Noah's dream of writing a book someday about his work with troubled kids. The conversation flowed like it used to, easy and endless, picking up threads from 10 years ago and weaving them into something current. When Noah dropped her off at her penthouse apartment, a sleek, modern space that screamed money and loneliness, they stood in the lobby like awkward teenagers. I had a good time, Celeste said. Me too. Even with the terrible violin music. Especially with the terrible violin music. She hesitated, then leaned in and kissed his cheek. Good night, Noah. He caught her hand before she could pull away completely. Celeste, this is going to work. I can feel it. I hope you're right. But hope, Noah was learning, required more than feeling. It required action, patience, and the willingness to stumble through the complicated reality of blending lives that had been separate for so long. Emma remained their true north, the constant they both oriented around. Celeste started joining them for their Friday movie nights, arriving with popcorn and an impressive knowledge of animated films. She learned Emma's routines, her favorite foods, the specific way she liked her sandwiches cut. And Emma, in turn, began testing boundaries. If you and Dad get married, do I have to call you Mom? She asked one Saturday afternoon while they were baking cookies at the estate's massive kitchen. Celeste nearly dropped the bowl she was holding. Emma, we're nowhere near. Marriage isn't. It's just a question, Emma said with 8-year-old logic. I'm trying to plan ahead. Noah, who'd been watching from the doorway, stepped in. How about we focus on the cookies first and worry about names later? Fine. But I'm just saying, if it happens, I want to be involved in the decision. It's my life too. After Emma wandered off to watch the cookies bake, Celeste turned to Noah with wide eyes. Did she just welcome to parenting? They hit you with the big questions when you're least prepared. I panicked. I should have handled that better. You were honest. That's what matters. Noah moved closer, wrapping his arms around her waist. And for the record, the answer to her question would be whatever she's comfortable with. No pressure, no expectations. Celeste rested her head against his chest. I keep waiting for the moment when this feels like too much. When the reality of being part of a family is overwhelming and I run away like I'm good at doing, but it hasn't happened yet. Maybe it won't. Maybe. But the real test came in May when Emma's school held its annual parent-teacher conference and spring concert on the same night. Noah had marked it on his calendar weeks ago, but on the afternoon of the event, a water main broke at the community center and he got called in for an emergency. He was elbow deep in crisis management, coordinating with plumbers and city officials, when he realized he was going to miss Emma's concert. He called her school in a panic. I'm so sorry I can't get away from work. Is there any way to reschedule the conference? The secretary's voice was sympathetic but firm. I'm sorry, Mr. Bennett, but tonight is the only option. We have over 300 families to accommodate. Noah hung up and immediately called Celeste. She answered on the first ring. I need a massive favor. Anything. Emma has her school concert tonight at 6 and I'm stuck at work. I know this is asking a lot, but could you possibly... I'm already putting it in my calendar. Text me the address. Celeste, you don't have to... Yes, I do. She's been practicing that recorder piece for weeks. Someone needs to be there to cheer for her, even if her performance makes our ears bleed. Noah felt something in his chest expand. Thank you. Really. I'll get there as soon as I can. Take your time. We've got this. At 6:15, while Noah was still coordinating with contractors, his phone buzzed with a photo from Celeste. Emma on stage in her school concert outfit, holding her recorder with fierce concentration. The caption read, "She's killing it." No, seriously, I think she's murdering that song, but she's adorable while doing it. Another photo came through 10 minutes later. Emma bowing after her performance, grinning from ear to ear. Standing ovation. I may have started it, but other parents joined in. Noah laughed despite his stress, showing the photo to his coworker Danny. That your girlfriend? Danny asked. Noah paused. Were they at the girlfriend-boyfriend stage? They'd been on exactly 4 dates, though they saw each other nearly every day through foundation work and Emma-related activities. Yeah, he said finally. I guess she is. He made it to the school by 7, just as the concert was ending and parents were filing into classrooms for conferences. He found Celeste and Emma in the hallway, Emma clutching a program and talking a mile a minute about the performance. Dad, you missed it, but Celeste recorded the whole thing and she said I was the best recorder player in the whole 3rd grade. I said you had the most enthusiasm, Celeste corrected, her eyes twinkling. There's a difference. Noah hugged his daughter. I'm sorry I missed it, sweetheart. Work emergency. It's okay. Celeste was there. She even helped me fix my hair when it got all weird from the bobby pins. They attended the parent-teacher conference together, all 3 of them crowding into the small chair in front of Mrs. Patterson's desk. Emma's teacher raised her eyebrows at the trio but said nothing. Emma is doing wonderfully, Mrs. Patterson said, pulling out a folder of Emma's work. Her reading comprehension is above grade level, and her creative writing shows real promise. Though I have noticed she's been much happier lately. More engaged in class, more willing to participate in group activities. Really? Noah asked, surprised. Oh, yes. There was a period earlier this year where she seemed withdrawn. But in the past few months, she's really come out of her shell. Mrs. Patterson looked between Noah and Celeste. Whatever you're doing at home, keep it up. In the car afterward, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the excitement of the evening. Celeste drove Noah's car while he sat in the back with Emma's head on his shoulder. That was intense, Celeste said quietly, glancing in the rear-view mirror. Welcome to school events. They're mostly chaos with occasional moments of pride. I liked it. Seeing her up there, so confident, knowing she trusted me enough to be there when you couldn't. Celeste's voice wavered slightly. I've never been someone's emergency contact before. Never been the person someone called when they needed help. It felt important. You are important to both of us. When they got home, Noah carried a sleeping Emma inside and tucked her into bed. Celeste waited in the living room, looking at the photos on the wall. Emma as a baby, Emma's first day of kindergarten, Emma and Noah at the beach last summer. You've built something really beautiful here, she said when Noah returned. A real home, I envy that. Your penthouse is incredible. My penthouse is a showpiece. It's not a home. I don't have pictures on the walls or Emma's artwork on the fridge or any of the things that make a place feel lived in. She turned to face him. I have a question, and you can say no. But would it be completely insane if I asked to spend more time here? Not move in, she added quickly. Nothing that dramatic, but maybe a drawer in your bathroom, a toothbrush, some clothes in your closet. The things that say I belong here, at least a little bit. Noah's apartment was tiny compared to her penthouse. The bathroom barely fit 1 person, let alone bathroom supplies for 2. The closet was already overflowing with his and Emma's clothes. But looking at Celeste's hopeful, vulnerable expression, he knew there was only one answer. Yes, absolutely yes. The smile that broke across her face was worth any amount of cramped bathroom space. Over the next month, Celeste's presence in their lives expanded in small, significant ways. A drawer became 2 drawers. Her favorite coffee appeared in the kitchen. She started keeping a change of clothes at the apartment for mornings when she stayed over after movie night ran late. And Emma, with her 8-year-old directness, began treating Celeste less like a guest and more like a permanent fixture. Celeste, can you do my hair for school? Dad always makes the ponytail too tight. Celeste, tell Dad he's wrong about whether Pluto is still a planet. Celeste, can we go to the estate this weekend? I want to work on my painting in the conservatory. Each request, each casual inclusion felt like another brick in the foundation they were building. And with each brick came the terrifying realization that they were in too deep to turn back now. The foundation work continued to evolve as well. By June, they'd awarded scholarships to 25 students and begun the process of converting part of the estate into a summer residential program for at-risk youth. Noah brought his expertise from the community center, Celeste brought her business acumen and endless resources, and together they created something that actually worked. The first time Noah met with a scholarship recipient and her mother, watching them cry with relief that college was now possible, he felt something shift inside him. This was Richard Harper's money being used to change lives. The man who destroyed Noah's happiness was now, posthumously, helping create happiness for others. Do you think he planned this? Noah asked Celeste one evening as they reviewed applications in his apartment, Emma asleep in the next room. Do you think your father knew that bringing us together through the foundation would lead to this? I think he hoped, Celeste said carefully. He was manipulative until the end, but I think he genuinely wanted to fix what he'd broken. And maybe he believed that forcing us to work together would remind us of what we'd lost. Did it work? What do you think? She set down her laptop and moved closer to him on the couch. Noah, I need to tell you something. The serious tone made him tense. Okay, I love you. I'm in love with you. Not who you were, not some romanticized memory, but exactly who you are right now. The man who raises an incredible daughter on his own, who turns crisis calls into opportunities to help, who reads children's books with different voices for every character, who makes terrible coffee and burns toast but keeps trying. She took his hands. I love you, and I need you to know that before we go any further. Because if this is going to work, we need honesty. Noah's throat tightened. I love you too. I have for months. Maybe since the night you showed up at my door. But I was scared to say it, scared that admitting it would jinx everything. We're both scared, but maybe being scared together is better than being safe apart. He kissed her then, really kissed her. Not the careful pecks they'd exchanged on previous dates, but something deep and desperate and full of 10 years of longing. She melted into him, her hands tangling in his hair, and for a moment the past and present collapsed into something that felt inevitable and right. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Celeste laughed shakily. We should probably talk about where this is going. Where do you want it to go? Honestly, I want everything. I want to wake up next to you. I want to be part of Emma's life officially, not just the woman who shows up for movie nights. I want us to be a family. She pulled back slightly. But I know that's a huge ask. Emma's been through enough upheaval, and your apartment is barely big enough for 2 people, let alone 3. So I've been thinking, dangerous activity. She swatted his arm. Shut up and let me finish. I've been thinking about the estate. It's enormous, mostly empty, and legally half yours anyway. What if we actually lived there? All 3 of us. We could have our own spaces. Emma could have a proper bedroom instead of sharing that tiny room, and we'd be close to the foundation's work. Noah sat back, processing this. You want us to move into your father's mansion. I want us to make it our mansion, our home, a place where we can build something new instead of being haunted by what he destroyed. She gripped his hands tighter. I know it's fast. I know we've only been officially together for a few months. But Noah, I've already wasted 10 years. I don't want to waste another day pretending we're not heading toward forever. What about Emma? We'd have to ask her. Ask me what? They both jumped. Emma stood in the doorway of her bedroom, rubbing her eyes, clearly having woken up and overheard at least part of the conversation. Sweetheart, we didn't mean to wake you, Noah started. Are you talking about moving to the castle? Emma asked, suddenly more awake. Because I heard that part, about all of us living there. Celeste looked stricken. Emma, we were going to discuss it with you properly, not just spring it on you in the middle of the night. Can I have the room with the window seat? Emma interrupted. The one that looks out at the gardens? Because if we're moving there, I want that room. Noah and Celeste exchanged stunned glances. You want to move? Noah asked carefully. Emma padded over to the couch and climbed between them. Dad, this apartment is really small. Like really, really small. And the castle has a library and a conservatory and that huge kitchen where we can make cookies. Plus, all my friends think it's so cool that I know someone who lives in an actual castle. But it would mean leaving this neighborhood, switching schools possibly. My school goes up through 5th grade anyway. I'd have to switch in 2 years regardless. Emma looked between them. And if we live at the castle, does that mean Celeste would be there all the time? Like, officially part of our family? If that's what everyone wants, Celeste said quietly. But Emma, you get to decide too. This is your life as much as ours. Emma was quiet for a moment, her small face serious. Can I ask you something? Anything, Celeste promised. Do you promise not to leave? Because my mom left and it really hurt, and I like you a lot. And if you became part of our family and then left, It would hurt even worse. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. She slid off the couch to kneel in front of Emma, taking her small hands in both of hers. Emma Bennett, I promise you with everything I am that I will never abandon you. Your dad and I might fight sometimes. We might have disagreements, but I will always be here for you. Always. Even if, and I don't think this will happen, but even if your dad and I didn't work out romantically, you and I would still be friends. Because you're extraordinary, and I'm lucky to know you, and nothing will change that. Emma studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, then I think we should move to the castle, but I get the room with the window seat. Deal, Celeste said, laughing through her tears. Emma hugged her, then climbed into bed. Can we get a dog too? Castles should have dogs. We'll discuss it, Noah said, tucking her in. Go back to sleep, sweetheart. Love you, Dad. Love you, Celeste. Celeste's breath caught. Love you too, Emma. When Emma's breathing had evened out into sleep, Noah and Celeste returned to the living room, both slightly shell-shocked. Did that just happen? Celeste whispered. I think we just got permission from an 8-year-old to change our entire lives. Are we really doing this? Moving in together, becoming a family? Noah pulled her close. Yeah, I think we are. The logistics took another month to sort out. They hired an interior designer to help make the estate feel less like a museum and more like a home. Emma's chosen bedroom was painted her favorite shade of purple, with the window seat she'd requested and built-in bookshelves for her growing library. Noah's office was set up in a sun-filled room on the second floor, and Celeste converted her father's old study into a shared workspace for the foundation. They kept Noah's apartment for the first few months, a safety net in case Emma needed familiar ground. But she adapted faster than either of them expected, making friends with the groundskeeper's daughter, establishing elaborate games throughout the sprawling estate, and declaring the move the best decision ever. The transition wasn't seamless. There were arguments about parenting styles. Celeste tended to want to solve Emma's problems with money, while Noah insisted on teaching her to work through challenges herself. There were moments when the ghost of Richard Harper felt oppressively present, when Celeste would walk past his portrait in the main hallway and visibly tense. There were nights when Noah woke up in the massive master bedroom and felt like an imposter in someone else's life. But there were also mornings when he woke up next to Celeste and watched sunlight play across her sleeping face and felt more at home than he ever had in his cramped apartment. There were family dinners around the kitchen table that Emma had declared theirs, the formal dining room remaining unused. There were foundation meetings where he and Celeste worked in perfect sync, anticipating each other's thoughts, building something meaningful together. By August, when the estate's first summer program launched with 15 teenagers from difficult backgrounds, Noah stood on the front steps watching them arrive and felt the full weight of what they'd built. These kids would have opportunities because Richard Harper had tried to make amends. They'd have mentorship, education, and hope because Noah and Celeste had transformed pain into purpose. Thank you, Celeste said, appearing beside him. For what? For not giving up on us, for taking the risk, for letting me be part of this. She gestured at the estate, the arriving students, the life they were creating, when it would have been so much easier to stay safe behind your walls. Turns out, I was never as safe as I thought. Just lonely. Noah took her hand. Besides, you made it impossible to say no, showing up on my doorstep in the snow, looking like every dream I'd tried to forget. That was the plan, seduce you with dramatic entrances and expensive coats. It worked. As the last of the students filed into the house, chattering excitedly about their summer ahead, Emma ran out to join them. She'd volunteered to be a junior counselor, helping the younger kids adjust. This is what happiness looks like, Celeste said softly. I never knew before. I thought it was success or money or proving my father wrong. But it's this. It's you and Emma and a house full of noise and purpose and second chances. Noah wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. Speaking of second chances, I've been thinking about something. Dangerous activity, she teased, echoing his words from months ago. I want to marry you. Celeste froze. What? Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, when it feels right. I want to marry you, Celeste Harper, and make this official. Make us official. He turned to face her fully. I want Emma to be right about her question from months ago. I want you to be her mom, if you're willing, I want us to be a family in every sense of the word. Tears spilled down Celeste's cheeks. Are you proposing to me on the front steps while 15 teenagers are potentially watching through the windows? Is that a problem? No, she laughed. It's perfect. Completely imperfect and absolutely perfect. Yes, Noah. Yes to marriage. Yes to being Emma's mom if she wants that. Yes to all of it. He kissed her there on the steps of the estate that had once been a symbol of everything wrong with Richard Harper's values, that was now becoming a symbol of everything they'd built from the ashes of his mistakes. From inside, they heard Emma's voice carrying through the open door. I told you they were going to get married. You all owe me $5. Celeste pulled back, laughing. Did she just make bets with the scholarship students about our relationship? That's my daughter, entrepreneur in training. Our daughter, Celeste corrected softly. If we're doing this, we're doing it all the way. Our daughter, Noah agreed. They stood there on the steps as summer evening light painted the sky gold, and the sounds of teenage laughter drifted from the house, and Noah thought about the impossible journey that had brought them here. From a knock on a door on a freezing winter night to this moment, this home, this family, Richard Harper had tried to destroy their love a decade ago. And in his final act, he'd brought them back together, giving them the resources and reason to build something better than what they'd lost. It wasn't the life they'd planned at 22. It was scarred by pain and loss, complicated by past hurts and present responsibilities. But it was theirs, chosen freely this time, built on honesty and hope instead of manipulation and control. And standing there with Celeste's hand in his and Emma's laughter in his ears, Noah finally understood what forgiveness felt like. Not for Richard Harper necessarily, but for the universe that had taken 10 years from them and given them back this second chance. Come on, Celeste said, tugging him toward the door. We have a house full of kids to supervise and a daughter to tell that yes, she was right, and no, she can't make betting pools about our personal life. She absolutely can. I'm raising her to be resourceful. We're raising her, Celeste corrected again, and we're going to disagree about this constantly. I'm looking forward to it. They walked into the house together, leaving the past on the steps behind them, ready to face whatever came next as the family they'd become. The engagement wasn't announced with press releases or society page announcements. Instead, it unfolded quietly over family dinners and foundation meetings, becoming an understood truth rather than a dramatic declaration. Noah didn't buy an expensive ring, at least not at first. What he did buy, 3 days after his impromptu proposal on the front steps, was the vintage bracelet Celeste had worn when they were 22, the one he'd saved for weeks to afford, the one that had disappeared when she'd moved out of her apartment 10 years ago. He found it at an estate sale in Connecticut, mixed in with costume jewelry in a cardboard box. The odds of it being the exact same bracelet were astronomical, but when he saw the tiny engraving on the clasp, CH, his heart had stopped. Somehow, through the chaos of Richard Harper's manipulations and the decade that followed, this small piece of their past had survived. He presented it to Celeste on a Saturday morning in September, after Emma had left for a play date and the house was quiet. They were in the conservatory, ostensibly reviewing scholarship applications, but really just enjoying the rare moment of solitude. I have something for you, Noah said, pulling the small box from his pocket. Celeste looked up from her laptop, eyebrows raised. If that's an engagement ring, I should warn you that I have opinions about diamonds and ethical sourcing. It's not a ring. Not yet. Open it. She did, and the color drained from her face. Noah, this is... How did you... Estate sale. Pure chance. Or fate, if you believe in that sort of thing. He took the bracelet from the box, fastening it around her wrist. You wore this the day you told me you loved me for the first time. Do you remember? Of course I remember. We were at that terrible Thai restaurant, and you'd just gotten hot sauce all over your shirt. Her fingers traced the familiar links. I thought I'd lost this when I moved out. I looked everywhere. Your father probably had it removed with everything else he erased from your life. Noah held her hand, feeling the bracelet between his palm and her skin. But it survived. We survived. And now we get to decide what comes next. Celeste kissed him, soft and slow, tasting like coffee and forgiveness. Thank you. This means more than any diamond ever could. Well, you're still getting a diamond eventually, Emma informed me that her friends expect a proper ring and she has standards to maintain. Our daughter is going to bankrupt us with her expectations. The word, our, still sent warmth through Noah's chest every time Celeste used it. But the path to making their family official wasn't without obstacles. The biggest came in late September, when Emma's biological mother, Jessica, called for the first time in 8 months. Noah was at the community center when his phone rang with her number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Jessica. Noah. Hi. Her voice was tentative, uncertain. How are you? Fine. Busy. What do you need? He kept his tone neutral, professional. I wanted to talk about Emma. I heard through mutual friends that you're engaged, that she's living in some mansion now with your new girlfriend. Noah felt his jaw tighten. Her name is Celeste, and yes, we're together. We're building a life that includes Emma. That's what I wanted to talk about. I think maybe I should have more involvement. If Emma's going to have a stepmother, she should probably spend more time with her actual mother, too. For balance. The audacity of it took Noah's breath away. Balance? Jessica, you left. You chose not to be her mother 3 years ago. You send birthday cards twice a year and nothing else. You don't get to suddenly decide you want balance. I'm her mother, Noah. Legally, I have rights you've never exercised, rights you explicitly waived when you signed the custody agreement. His hand shook with barely contained anger. If you want to be part of Emma's life, actually be part of it. Not just when it's convenient or when you're feeling guilty. But you don't get to use my relationship as leverage to suddenly play mom. There was a long silence. Then Jessica's voice, smaller. Is she happy? Emma? The fight went out of Noah immediately. Yeah, she's really happy. She has friends, she's doing great in school, and she's excited about the life we're building. Celeste is good to her. Good for her. That's what I needed to know. Jessica's voice broke slightly. I'm not trying to disrupt anything. I just needed to know she was okay. That I didn't completely fail her. You didn't fail her. You made a choice that was honest, even if it was hard. Emma understands that better than you think. Can I talk to her sometime? Not about custody or rights, just to talk? Noah considered it. Let me ask her. If she wants to talk to you, I'll set it up. But Jessica, you can't do this halfway. If you're going to be in her life, you need to be consistent. She deserves that. I understand. Thank you, Noah. After they hung up, Noah sat in his office staring at his phone until his coworker Danny knocked on the door. You good, man? You look like you've seen a ghost. Close enough. Noah explained the situation, and Danny whistled low. What are you going to tell Emma? The truth. That her mom called, wants to talk to her, and it's Emma's choice whether she wants to respond. That evening, after dinner, Noah and Celeste sat Emma down in the library. She listened to Noah's explanation of Jessica's call with her characteristic seriousness, her small face thoughtful. Does she want to be my mom again? Emma asked when Noah finished. I don't think so, sweetheart. I think she wants to know you're okay. Maybe have some contact like phone calls or video chats, but nothing would change with our custody arrangement. Emma looked at Celeste. Would it be weird if I talked to her sometimes? Would you be mad? Celeste's expression softened. Emma, I could never be mad about you having a relationship with your biological mother. She's part of who you are, and having more people who love you is never a bad thing. But you're going to be my mom too, right? When you marry Dad? If that's what you want, but there's room in your life for both of us. Love isn't a competition. Emma nodded slowly. Okay, I think I want to talk to her, just to see what she's like now. But I don't want to live with her or anything. I like our family the way it is. Then that's what we'll do, Noah said, pulling her into a hug. You're in charge of how much contact you want. We'll support whatever you decide. The first video call between Emma and Jessica happened a week later, supervised by Noah. It was awkward and brief, mostly Jessica asking surface-level questions and Emma giving monosyllabic answers. But by the third call, they were talking more easily, Emma showing Jessica her artwork, and Jessica sharing stories about her life in California. Celeste watched it all with careful attention, never interfering but always available if Emma needed to process her feelings afterward. And gradually, what had seemed like a potential crisis transformed into something healthier. Emma developing a relationship with her biological mother that existed alongside her relationship with Celeste, both women occupying different but valuable spaces in her life. "You're handling this remarkably well," Noah told Celeste one night after Emma had gone to bed. "I'm terrified," Celeste admitted. "Terrified that Jessica will decide she wants Emma back. Terrified that Emma will prefer her real mother to the woman who's trying to step into that role." "You're not trying to step into anything. You're creating your own role, and Emma knows the difference between the mother who left and the woman who chose to stay." "How do you always know the right thing to say?" "I don't. I just love you both enough to keep trying until I figure it out." As fall deepened into winter, the Foundation's work expanded in ways that surprised them both. The summer program had been so successful that they launched a year-round mentorship initiative, pairing scholarship recipients with professionals in their fields of interest. Emma became the unofficial mascot of the program, charming donors at fundraising events and providing the kids' perspective on what actually helped versus what adults thought would help. "Nobody wants another boring lecture," she announced at a board meeting, to the shock of the assembled executives. "They want actual people who've done cool stuff to come talk about how they got there. And pizza, always serve pizza." Celeste had to hide her smile as the board members scrambled to adjust their programming based on an 8-year-old's feedback. But Emma was right. When they implemented her suggestions, engagement among the students tripled. It was at one of these events, a December evening gala to celebrate the Foundation's first year, that Noah finally understood what Celeste had meant about transforming her father's legacy. The ballroom of the estate was filled with students whose lives had changed because of scholarships, parents who wept with gratitude, teachers who spoke about renewed hope in their classrooms. Richard Harper's money, earned through ruthless business practices and maintained through careful manipulation, was now creating genuine opportunity for kids who reminded Noah of himself at their age. Smart enough to dream, but without the resources to make those dreams real. "He'd hate this," Celeste whispered to Noah as they watched a scholarship recipient give a speech about using her education to become a civil rights lawyer. "My father would absolutely hate that his fortune is going to fund the exact kind of activism he spent his life opposing." "Good," Noah said. "Let him spin in his grave. This is what love looks like. Messy, generous, nothing like the controlled empire he tried to build." "Speaking of love," Celeste said, her hand finding his, "I've been thinking about the wedding." They'd been engaged for 3 months but hadn't set a date, both of them hesitant to rush despite Emma's increasing insistence that they needed to make it official already. "What about it?" "I don't want a big society wedding, no press, no board members I barely know, none of the circus my father would have demanded." Celeste turned to face him fully. "I want something small, just us, Emma, the people who actually matter. Maybe here at the estate since it's become home. What do you think?" "I think that sounds perfect." "When?" "Spring? Emma will be on break, the gardens will be beautiful, and it gives us time to plan without rushing." Noah kissed her there in the middle of the crowded ballroom, not caring who saw. "Spring it is." The wedding planning became a family project. Emma insisted on being flower girl, bridesmaid, and wedding planner all at once, creating elaborate Pinterest boards and presenting them at weekly family meetings. Celeste's assistant, Maria, took on the actual logistics while Emma focused on the important stuff, cake flavors, flower arrangements, and whether they could release doves at the ceremony. "No doves," Celeste said firmly. "They're unsanitary and dramatic." "But you're dramatic," Emma argued. "Point taken. Still no doves." They settled on a small ceremony in the conservatory, followed by a reception in the gardens. The guest list topped out at 50 people, Noah's sister Marie and her family, a handful of Celeste's college friends she'd reconnected with, colleagues from both the Foundation and Noah's community center work, and Emma's best friend Sophia as junior bridesmaid. Jessica was not invited to the wedding, but she sent a gift, a beautiful hand-painted music box with a note that read, "Thank you for loving her the way I couldn't. She deserves you both." Emma kept the music box on her dresser and added video calls with Jessica to her weekly routine, but when asked who was walking her down the aisle as junior bridesmaid, she chose Noah without hesitation. The night before the wedding, Noah found Celeste in her father's old study, now their shared office, staring at the portrait of Richard Harper they'd never quite gotten around to removing. "Having second thoughts?" he asked, leaning against the door frame. "About marrying you? Never." She turned away from the portrait. But I was thinking about him, about whether he'd approve of any of this. Does it matter? Not really. But I can't help wondering if this was always his plan, if he knew that forcing us together would lead to this. She gestured around the room, encompassing the foundation's paperwork, the life they'd built. Or if he just got lucky that we didn't completely destroy each other in the process. Noah crossed to her, taking both her hands. I don't think he had a plan beyond trying to fix what he broke. But here's what I know. Tomorrow I'm marrying the woman I loved at 22 and the woman I love at 32, and they're the same person. Just braver now, scarred but stronger. And whatever your father intended, we chose this. We choose each other every single day. We do, don't we? Celeste smiled. Even when it's hard. Even when we fight about Emma's bedtime, or whether the foundation should expand into international programs, or whose turn it is to deal with the plumbing issues in the West Wing. Especially then, that's how I know it's real. We choose each other through the boring, difficult parts, not just the dramatic reunions and grand gestures. I love you, Noah Bennett, tomorrow and every day after. I love you too. Now come to bed. Our daughter has informed me that the bride needs proper rest to look not tired and old for the wedding. She said that? Her exact words, she's going through a bluntness phase. That's definitely your influence. The wedding day dawned clear and bright, spring finally asserting itself after a long winter. Emma woke Noah up at 6 a.m., bouncing with excitement. Dad, Dad, it's wedding day. Get up. Noah groaned. The ceremony isn't until 2. Let me sleep. No time for sleep. We have so much to do. I have to make sure my dress still fits, and you have to practice your vows, and we need to check on the flowers, and… Emma? Breathe. She took an exaggerated breath, then grinned. I'm just really excited. You're going to marry Celeste, and she's going to officially be part of our family, and everything's going to be perfect. Nothing's ever perfect, sweetheart. Today will be. She said it with such certainty that Noah almost believed her. The morning passed in a blur of preparations. Marie arrived early to help with Emma's hair, transforming her daughter's wild curls into something elegant. Celeste got ready in the master bedroom while Noah was exiled to a guest room, maintaining the tradition of not seeing each other before the ceremony. At 1:30, as guests began arriving and taking their seats in the conservatory, Noah stood in the hallway with Emma, both of them in their wedding attire. She wore a pale purple dress that she'd chosen herself, with flowers in her hair that she kept trying to adjust. You look beautiful, Noah told her. You look nervous. I am nervous. Why? You love Celeste and she loves you and everyone here is happy for you. When did you get so wise? Emma shrugged. I'm almost 9. I know things. The music started, signaling the beginning of the ceremony. Emma walked down the aisle first, scattering flower petals with focused precision. Then it was Noah's turn, walking to the front of the conservatory where the officiant waited, his sister Marie standing as his best woman. And then Celeste appeared. She'd chosen a simple dress, ivory silk that moved like water, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. She carried a bouquet of the same flowers that had been blooming in the garden the night she'd come back into his life. No veil, no train, nothing to hide behind. Just Celeste, walking toward him with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face. They'd written their own vows. Noah went first, his voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm him. Celeste, 10 years ago I lost you, and it broke something inside me that I thought would never heal. When you came back, I was terrified of letting you in again, of risking that kind of pain. But you were patient with me. You showed up over and over, proving that this time was different, that we were different. You've become not just my partner, but Emma's champion, our family's foundation, the person I want beside me through every challenge and joy. I promise to choose you every day. To be honest, even when it's hard. To build a life with you that honors both who we were and who we're becoming. I love you, Celeste Harper, and I'm grateful for every moment that brought us back to each other. Celeste's hands trembled as she held his, her voice thick with tears when she spoke. Noah, you've taught me what love actually means. Not the fairy tale I imagined at 22, but something better, real, messy, brave. You've given me a home, not just this building, but the feeling of belonging somewhere. You've trusted me with Emma, the most precious thing in your world, and that trust has changed me, made me kinder, softer, more willing to risk being hurt if it means being loved. I promised to honor that trust, to put our family first, always, to never let my work or my fears or my past come between us, and to remember that the best decision I ever made was knocking on your door that winter night, even though I was terrified you'd turn me away. The officiant smiled through her own tears. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Noah, you may kiss your bride. And he did, in front of 50 people who cheered, and Emma, who shouted, "Finally!" And the portrait of Richard Harper, that watched from the hallway, bearing witness to the love he'd tried to destroy and inadvertently helped rebuild. The reception flowed seamlessly from ceremony, guests moving into the gardens where tables were set up under strings of lights. Emma gave a toast that had everyone laughing and crying in equal measure, talking about how her dad had been sad before Celeste came back, and now he sang in the shower again. Marie toasted to second chances and stubborn hearts. The foundation's first scholarship recipient, now a college sophomore, toasted to the family that showed her what generosity really looked like. As the sun set and the party continued, Noah and Celeste slipped away for a moment, walking to the bench in the garden where they'd had their first real conversation after Richard's confession. "We did it," Celeste said, leaning against him. "We actually did it. Built a family, saved a foundation, got married, and only had 2 major crises along the way. I'd say we're doing pretty well. Your standards are low." "My standards are realistic." He kissed her temple. "Thank you." "For what?" "For coming back, for being brave enough to knock on my door, for fighting for us even when I was too scared to fight for myself. Thank you for letting me in, for trusting me with Emma, for building this." She gestured at the house, the party, the life they'd created. "With me instead of doing it alone like you'd gotten used to." Emma came running up, slightly out of breath. "Sophia and I found baby rabbits in the garden. Can we keep them?" "No," Noah and Celeste said simultaneously. Emma pouted but ran back to her friend, already distracted by the next adventure. "That's going to be our life now," Celeste observed. "Her asking for increasingly elaborate things and us trying to maintain some semblance of boundaries. Worth it. Completely worth it." They returned to the party as the dancing started. Noah watched Celeste spin Emma around the makeshift dance floor, both of them laughing, and felt the weight of the past finally lift. Richard Harper had stolen 10 years from them, but those years had shaped them into people who could appreciate this second chance. The pain had made them careful with each other, thoughtful about what they were building. A year ago, Noah had been a single father going through the motions, convinced that the great love of his life was gone forever. Now he stood in the garden of an estate that was somehow his home, married to a woman who'd come back from the dead of their past, watching their daughter, because Emma was theirs now, in every way that mattered, dance in the twilight. As winter gave way to spring and spring to summer, their life settled into a rhythm that felt both ordinary and miraculous. Emma finished 3rd grade with honors and spent her summer helping with the foundation's expanded programs. Celeste and Noah co-wrote a proposal for taking the scholarship program nationwide, presenting it to the board with Emma's demanded pizza in attendance. Jessica maintained her weekly calls with Emma, content to be a distant but consistent presence rather than disrupting the family they'd built. On the 1-year anniversary of Richard Harper's death, they stood together at his grave, Noah, Celeste, and Emma. Emma placed flowers on the headstone, one she'd picked herself from the estate's garden. "I never met you," Emma said to the grave, "but Dad says you made some really bad choices that hurt people. But you also said you were sorry, and you tried to fix it. So I guess thank you for that part. For helping Dad and Celeste find each other again, even if you did it in a weird, manipulative way." Celeste laughed despite the tears on her cheeks. "That's the most honest eulogy you'll ever get, Dad." They didn't stay long. The grave was just stone and grass, the man beneath it long past caring what they thought. But as they walked back to the car, Celeste took Noah's hand. "Do you think we would have made it?" she asked. "If he hadn't interfered? If we'd just gotten to be together like we planned?" Noah thought about the idealistic kids they'd been, full of dreams but short on the wisdom that came from surviving loss. "Maybe. Or maybe we would have crashed and burned and never found our way back to each other. There's no way to know." "Does it bother you, not knowing?" "It used to. But now I think the not knowing is the point. We can't change the past, can't undo what he did. But we got to choose our future. That matters more." Emma ran ahead to the car, her earlier solemnity forgotten. "Can we get ice cream on the way home? I think we earned ice cream." "We absolutely earned ice cream," Celeste agreed. As they drove away from the cemetery, Noah looked in the rearview mirror at Emma singing along to the radio, then at Celeste beside him, sunlight catching in her hair. This wasn't the life they'd planned at 22. It was scarred by a decade of separation, complicated by blended family dynamics, built on the ruins of someone else's manipulation. But it was theirs, and it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. The foundation continued to grow, changing lives one scholarship at a time. Emma grew up surrounded by love from multiple sources: her father, her stepmother, even occasional video calls from California. And Noah and Celeste learned what it meant to choose each other, not just once in a grand romantic gesture, but every single day in small and glamorous ways. Years later, when Emma was preparing to leave for college on a scholarship from the very foundation that had brought her family together, she found the box of letters in the library. The 73 letters her father had written to Celeste, never received, that had survived a decade of separation, to become evidence of a love strong enough to be destroyed and rebuilt. "Can I read them?" she asked Noah, finding him in his office. He looked at the box, then at his daughter, 18 now, brilliant and kind, everything he and Celeste had hoped to raise her to be. "They're yours as much as mine. Our family exists because of those letters, in a roundabout way." Emma sat cross-legged on the floor and read through them one by one, tears streaming down her face. When she finished, she looked up at her father. "You really loved her, even when you thought she'd left you." "I really did. And she loved you the same way. You just didn't know it." "For a long time, yeah." Emma carefully placed the letters back in the box. "I want to take these with me, to school, to remind me that love is worth fighting for, even when it seems impossible, especially then." Noah felt his throat tighten. "When did you get so wise?" "I learned from the best." She hugged him. "From you and Celeste. You showed me that people make mistakes, that life doesn't go according to plan, but if you're brave enough to try again, you can build something beautiful from the broken pieces." That night, the whole family gathered for Emma's going-away dinner. Celeste cooked, or tried to, burning the main course and ordering pizza as backup, much to everyone's amusement. They ate in the kitchen that had become their gathering place, telling stories and laughing, savoring these last moments before Emma left for the next chapter of her life. Later, after Emma had gone to pack and the dishes were done, Noah and Celeste stood on the back terrace looking out at the gardens they'd transformed from manicured perfection into something wild and alive. "We did good," Celeste said softly. "We did great. I never thanked you properly for taking the risk on me, on us." Noah turned to face her, this woman who'd been his first love and his second chance, who'd knocked on his door on a freezing winter night and changed everything. "You came back," he said simply. "After everything your father did. After 10 years of separation, you came back and told me the truth. That took more courage than anything I did. I was terrified you'd slam the door in my face. I almost did. But then I saw you standing there in the snow, and I thought, what if? What if she's telling the truth? What if I get another chance at the one thing I thought I'd lost forever? And I couldn't let you walk away again without knowing, without trying." Celeste rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm glad you didn't. I'm glad we were both brave enough to risk it." Inside, they could hear Emma on the phone with Jessica, talking about college plans, her voice carrying through the open windows. It was a sound that would have seemed impossible a few years ago. Their daughter, comfortable enough to have relationships with both her mothers, secure in the family they'd built together. "Do you ever wonder," Celeste asked, "what your life would have looked like if I'd never come back?" "Sometimes, but honestly, I can't imagine it anymore. This life, with you and Emma and the foundation and all of it, this is the only version that feels real. Even the parts that are hard, especially those parts, they prove it's real, that we chose this, problems and all." The stars came out over the estate, the same stars that had witnessed Richard Harper's machinations, their separation, their reunion, and everything that came after. The house behind them glowed with warm light, music drifting from Emma's room as she packed, the sounds of a family living fully in the imperfect present. Noah and Celeste stood there together, Two people who'd loved and lost and found each other again, who'd taken the weapons meant to destroy them and forged them into something that created opportunity for others. They'd transformed pain into purpose, manipulation into meaning, a monument to one man's ego into a home full of laughter and hope. It wasn't the ending Richard Harper had planned when he intercepted those letters all those years ago. It was better, because it was chosen freely, built honestly, and sustained by the kind of love that survives not because it's easy, but because both people wake up every morning and decide it's worth fighting for. And in the end, that was the real debt Celeste had come to collect that winter night. Not revenge or repayment, but the future they'd been denied. The life they could have had if love had been allowed to run its course. They got it. Not the way they'd imagined at 22, but in a form more resilient for having been broken and rebuilt. They got their second chance, their family, their home. They got each other, and that, Noah thought, as he held his wife under the stars while their daughter prepared to fly, was more than enough. It was everything they'd ever needed. It was finally, completely, irrevocably theirs.